Standing on the bridge, they could see the lake and the big, round, fiery red sun hanging low, almost touching the water. Lu Chengjun took out his camera and snapped a few pictures of the sunset, then walked back with Gigi. At the bridgehead, the tiger was still waiting. As they approached, the tiger finally stood up. Eru's a bit afraid of water, he doesn't like going on the bridge, Gigi explained with a smile. Meanwhile, on the lake island, Wu Jun trembled in the freezing cold, already dazed. He had thought protecting young Master Lu was a minor task, but it turned out young Master Lu's friend's home was on this lake island. Even worse, he couldn't get inside. Though it looked unguarded, it was actually full of traps. His arms and legs were injured in several places. This wasn't an ordinary residence, its defenses were stricter than a prison's. At that moment, he saw a huge tiger slowly walking beside young Master Lu, yawning. Wu Jun worried young Master Lu was too thin, barely enough to be a meal for the tiger. He kept reassuring himself, pet tigers don't bite people, they don't bite people. But as he moved slightly, the tiger suddenly turned its head, staring at him and baring its blood-red mouth. Time to eat. Gigi, seeing the tiger remain still, struggled to drag it away. Wu Jun broke out in a cold sweat. He knew if Gigi hadn't pulled the tiger away, it would have lunged at him. In his weakened state, he couldn't even fend off a single swipe from the tiger. Lying on the ice, he exhaled white breath. Back inside, the aroma of food filled the air. Lu Chengyuan's stomach grumbled, he was actually hungry. He usually had little appetite, maybe because he'd been more active today. He felt a bit embarrassed, but Gigi didn't notice. She was crouched on the floor, rubbing the tiger Eru's head, mimicking exactly how Father Joe would do it. This is segment 200 of 361. Please process the following content according to your logic. Keep the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. Eru was being held down, his plump backside raised high, his sturdy legs lifted up as well, howling loudly, but not feeling uncomfortable at all. In fact, he seemed quite happy. Lu Chengjun suddenly felt a bit envious of this tiger. At that moment, he sensed a cool touch near his feet, a thick tail rubbing against him. It was Xiaohua. He carefully bent down to stroke it and saw Xiaohua's head resting by the pond's edge, eyes opening and closing lazily, ignoring him. Never in his dreams did he imagine he'd be playing with a tiger and a snake. Lu Chengyuan's heart raced, and his pale complexion brightened. Dinner time, called Grandpa Zhou. Lu Chengjun and Gigi went to wash their hands together. They noticed Gigi's family had sinks at different heights. Gigi explained, when I was little, Grandpa and I used the low sink. Now that I'm grown, Dad and I use the higher one, but Grandpa still uses the low sink. Lu Chengjun recalled the warm, natural image of little Gigi and her grandfather with the broken leg standing side by side at the low sink. They scrubbed their hands with soap 3 times thoroughly before considering them clean. Lu Chengjun felt very happy. At home, his sister always teased him for being a cleanliness freak. He never thought Gigi washed her hands the same way. Gigi said it was her father's rule, and that's how it's taught in books. Proudly, Jomu said from nearby, teaching them right, studying really pays off. After washing, Gigi used a brand new pink elephant towel to dry her hands. Grandpa Zhou used an old plain gray towel. Gigi pointed to a light blue giraffe towel next to the pink one and said, "This one's just for you. I prepared it for you to use." Lu Chengjun felt delighted. After drying their hands, they hung the towels neatly back in place. Seeing 3 tall ones and 1 short one, he felt especially comfortable inside. At the dining table, Lu Chengjun noticed the bowls at Gigi's house were quite large. Instead of plates, dishes were served in big soup bowls. He was a bit surprised. At his own home, meals were served in many small plates, and he often didn't know which dish to pick, nor was he willing to try different dishes, he just quietly ate as if completing a task. Gigi's family had only a few dishes, 3 dishes and 1 soup, but the portions were generous, each bowl full to the brim. The aroma was mouth-watering. The rice wasn't cooked in an electric rice cooker but steamed in a big wooden tub. The tub was covered with a wooden lid. Holding his bowl, Lu Chengjun stood beside Gigi watching Grandpa lift the lid. Steam billowed out, and the rice smelled incredibly fragrant. He had never thought rice could smell so good. Grandpa scooped a large spoonful for Gigi. When it was Lu Chengyuan's turn, Grandpa gave him an equally large scoop. The rice not only filled the bowl but was packed down tightly, each grain glossy. Feeling a bit shy, he said, "Grandpa, I can't eat this much." The old scholar shook his head, "It's okay. If you don't finish, Eru will eat it. I'm more worried you won't have enough." Lu Chengjun saw Grandpa Zhou also filled a big bowl. His rice bowl was even bigger than Lu Chengjun's. Each bowl seemed to weigh about 2 pounds. The square table had 4 people, 1 on each side, just right. There was no ceremony, just steaming hot food. Nobody knew who would start first. Everyone just focused on eating. Even Gigi ate seriously and quickly. When Lu Chengjun was still lingering, Gigi had already finished a bowl. At his feet, Era was crunching on something too. Gigi's grandpa, wearing neat dentures, was also working hard chewing on pig's trotters. These are pig's trotters with soybeans. Grandpa stewed them all day. They're especially delicious. Hurry up or it'll be gone, Gigi said as she quickly served him another bowl and then quickly rejoined the battle. Lu Chengjun felt like he was in the middle of a war. Unconsciously, he started eating fast too. Not only his own bowl but also actively picking from other dishes, though the dishes were nearly empty, only a little soup left at the bottom. He imitated Gigi, using his spoon to ladle soup over the rice and ate with great appetite. Lu Chengjun felt he had never eaten so vigorously before. Sweat formed at the back of his head. By the lakeside on Hart Island, bodyguard Wu Jun pulled compressed biscuits from his cotton jacket pocket, broke off a piece, and slowly let it dissolve in his mouth. In the end, Lu Chengjun ate 2 bowls of rice. He felt a bit full and somewhat embarrassed. Gigi's grandpa praised him, being able to eat well is a blessing. From now on, you have to eat 2 bowls every meal. I'll make sure your parents see you as a chubby boy when you go home. Mentioning his parents warmed Lu Chengjun's heart, like a cold wind being blown away. He envied Gigi. Though Gigi only had her father and grandpa, both doted on her like a precious jewel. He didn't need that kind of pampering, but thinking about his mother, he felt a faint ache inside, a pain he couldn't share with anyone because she was his mother. After the meal, they rested a while. Then Lu Chengjun and Gigi went to the study to do homework. Gigi's family study was filled with many books, all old. Each book was wrapped in craft paper, with beautiful calligraphy titles on the covers. These are Grandpa's treasures. You can look at them, but you have to put them back where they belong after reading. Lu Chengjun nodded. Do we have homework during the holidays? Yes, the school gives homework, and Grandpa assigns some too, like drawing and practicing calligraphy. He used to write letters to you, but now that you're here, there's no need. This is content segment 201 of 361. Please process the following according to your logic, keeping the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout, and only return the processed result. Lu Chengjun heard that Gigi used to write letters to him and thought this place was really nice. You said last time that you didn't do well in physics. How's it going now? Want me to help you? When Gigi heard physics, she lowered her head, resting it on the table with a helpless expression. It's no use. Dad hired so many tutors and even took the physics teacher out to eat. He's gained 10 pounds, but I still didn't do well in physics. Lu Chengjun found her look very cute. I also have homework assigned by Grandpa, plus my tutors, I brought them all. The two opened their notebooks and started working. Old scholar Lao Xiu and Zhoumu finished their tasks and came in, seeing them sitting side by side, quiet and warm. Old scholar Lao Xiu poked Zhoumu's arm. Gigi likes having a little brother. During dinner, they asked Lu Chengjun and learned he was not even 15, younger than Gigi. Zhoumu thought the scene was nice and joked, if you can get old Mrs. Lu in the village pregnant, I'll let Gigi recognize him as her little brother. Old scholar Lao Xiu blushed and punched Zhoumu lightly. That's a spiritual love. Wait until you're 80 and see if you're still so spirited. Gigi and Lu Chengjun didn't notice anyone had come in. Music played softly in the study, and the old house was filled with the sound of reading. Maybe 300 years ago, students here were nodding their heads preparing for the imperial exams. Old scholar Lao Xiu watched for almost an hour. As night fell, he brought in a big bowl of rock sugar and white fungus soup. First day here, get some rest early. The climate is drier than the capital, drink some soup. Lu Chengjun followed Gigi's example and served 2 small bowls. Zhou Dad also came in. Although it was Gigi's family of 3, Lu Chengjun didn't feel excluded. Instead, it felt more like family than at his own home. Zhou Dad finished the remaining dishes, and everyone sat chatting for a while. Dad, Grandpa, Chengjun's amazing. He rarely gets first place, and he was sick for almost a month, missing school. But he still got first in the final exam. Other students must be so mad, Gigi said admiringly. Old scholar Lao Xiu looked at the frail-looking Lu Chengjun, surprised at how sharp his mind was, but thought his health looked poor. Zhoumu also thought the boy was impressive, but looking at the two of them, he still felt his own daughter was better, healthy, eating well, and never fainting. Even if her grades weren't great, it didn't matter, he could take care of her. Lu Chengjun blushed a little from the praise. I just have a good memory and focus well. Hearing focus, Zhoumu nodded approvingly. Everything should be done seriously and attentively. He recalled how focused he was when he was in prison doing anything. After finishing their late-night snack, old scholar Lao Xiu advised Lu Chengjun to rest early. Lu Chengjun's room was right next to Gigi's, with a balcony and a lake view through the window. The bed was large, with new sheets and duvet. I picked it out. It's got blue giraffes. Do you like it? Gigi asked proudly. Lu Chengjun nodded. His room was all black and white, he didn't want it to be as fancy as his sister's. Seeing the light blue giraffe, he liked it too. Go to bed early. Don't be afraid. Though it's an old house, Dad, Grandpa, and I are right next door. There's also Eru and Xiaohua here. No bad guys will come in. Gigi explained how to turn off lights and wash up, then left, leaving Lu Chengjun alone in the room. The house instantly became quiet but warm, not cold. He lay straight on the bed. The bed wasn't soft, it was a hard wooden board with thick bedding on top. The quilt wasn't a light air conditioning blanket but a weighted cotton one, still smelling of cotton. Lu Chengjun opened his suitcase to get clothes for a shower, only then realizing he had brought gifts for Gigi, Joe Dad, and Grandpa. Because the experience at Gigi's home was so surreal, he hadn't thought about it at all. For Gigi, a set of painting tools; for Grandpa, a beautiful snuff bottle; for Joe Dad, a sewing kit. He rarely gave gifts because he hardly had any friends. These gifts were all chosen based on the feelings Gigi described in her letters. Gigi said Grandpa loved to show off and liked ancient things, so he chose a snuff bottle that, according to his own grandfather, came from an ancient imperial palace. Gigi said Dad was very skilled, he sewed clothes for her and made shoes for Grandpa. In Lu Chengjun's mind, Gigi's dad was a gentleman playing both dad and mom roles, so he picked a high-end British tailor's sewing kit, complete with scissors, cutting knives, needles, and thread, all custom-made. Gigi needed no explanation, she was so good at painting, he gave her painting tools. This set wasn't brought from abroad but was borrowed in exchange for lending a painting to Guoshui master Gong Jiqing, who had kept urging Lu Chengjun to lend Gigi a painting and finally agreed to lend this special set for a week. He placed the gifts on the table, took out his pajamas, and neatly organized the suitcase, everything clear and tidy. This is segment 202 of 361. Processing the content according to logical flow, preserving original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Returning only the processed result. The bathroom was very traditional Chinese style, with a dressing table and wooden screen, but the water heater and other equipment were modern, providing plenty of hot water. He quickly took a hot shower, not lingering too long for fear of fainting. Wrapped in a bathrobe, he changed into pajamas, his hair wrapped in a white dry towel. Just then, there was a knock at the door. He stood up to open it and saw Gigi wearing pajamas, holding 2 big apples. Here, this is for you. The apple scent helps you sleep. If you really can't fall asleep, you can eat it. You have to dry your hair before sleeping, or you might catch a cold. I couldn't find a hairdryer, Lu Chengjun said as he opened the door wider to let Gigi in. Gigi placed the apples on the bedside table, then rummaged through the drawer next to it and pulled out a hairdryer. Seeing Lu Chengjun standing there awkwardly, his head wrapped in a white towel, eyes glistening with moisture. I'll help you dry your hair. When my dad dries my hair, it feels really nice. Lu Chengjun nodded shyly. Gigi sat on the bed, and Lu Chengjun sat on the floor while she used the hairdryer on his hair. His hair was chestnut-colored, slightly curly, and felt very soft to the touch. Is your hair natural? It's really unique, Gigi said as the warm air whooshed out. Yeah, my uncles have curly hair too, so I do as well. The warm air made his eyelids heavy, and he was almost asleep. Late at night. The room was filled with the smell of old wood and sun-dried quilts, said to be the scent of dust mites scorched by the sun, mixed with the fragrance of apples. Lu Chengjun's hair was warm, and he gradually drifted off to sleep. He had 3 wounds on his body, had not half a compressed biscuit, and was chilled by the cold wind. Finally, Wu Jun left the outskirts of Heart Lake Island. He planned to sneak into the nearby forest. He had trained in freezing winter conditions during his military service. He hadn't expected this time to be so harsh, and his gear was insufficient. Seeing the island full of holes and vulnerabilities, he still couldn't get on it. The moment he stepped onto the island, he was attacked for no reason, it was just too miserable. Luckily, he saw that the little girl was quite kind to young Master Lu, so hopefully nothing serious had happened. But he dared not be careless and decided to hide in the nearby woods, ready to rush over if young Master Lu called for help. Just as he entered the forest, he smelled a strange, pungent odor. To stay alert, he climbed up a big tree. He took out a rope from his bag and tied himself to the tree trunk to prevent falling if he fell asleep. He was wearing thick, warm, windproof clothing, his head wrapped up with only his eyes exposed. This spot was good, he could see the entire Heart Lake Island. He watched the lights of the old houses on the island gradually go out and closed his eyes. It was still before dawn. Suddenly, he felt the tree shaking. Was it an earthquake? He tensed up, the rope tied to him swinging violently. Opening his eyes, he was terrified. No earthquake had happened, but two large bears were standing under the tree. Wu Jun freaked out. This place wasn't far from Heart Lake Island, not too far from the city, yet there were such huge wild animals? The two big bears looked up at him, their paws pounding the tree trunk. Wu Jun knew that one bear alone was no match for him, let alone two. He could only wait for them to get tired and leave. The bears took turns pounding the tree. The bigger one eventually sat on the grass, leaning against the tree, panting and drooling. At dawn, Lu Chengjun woke up. Looking at his watch, it was only 6 o'clock. The sweet scent of apples still lingered in the room. He washed up, the warm steam in the room fogged the glass windows. Pushing open the balcony door, the biting cold wind outside instantly woke him fully, his nose turning bright red from the chill. Gansu was definitely much colder than Dying City. Unable to sleep or sit still, Lu Chengjun picked up the big apple from the bedside and stepped outside. The next room was very quiet. It was still early, Gigi probably hadn't gotten up yet. He didn't knock and headed downstairs. A light was on in one of the rooms downstairs, and there was some movement. Following the light, Lu Chengjun walked over. Before entering, he heard creaking sounds inside. It was still dark, and the sounds in the old house were a little scary. Lu Chengjun hesitated for a moment but held the apple and pushed the door open. Gigi said her grandfather called apples peace apples because they bring calm and protection, so there was nothing to worry about. Inside, Gigi's grandfather stood on a wooden stool, scooping soybeans onto two stacked large round stones. Gigi's father had a rope tied around his waist and was holding onto a piece of wood connected to the round stones. Gigi's father rhythmically pushed the stone mill while her grandfather kept adding soybeans into the mill. The soybeans were plump and moist, but the ground product was white soybean milk, dripping steadily into the bucket below. Lu Chengjun walked in. They didn't stop what they were doing. Did you sleep well? Getting up so early, Gigi's grandfather asked. Pretty well. I usually wake up at this time at home, too. Grandpa, can I help? I can help Grandma with chores, Lu Chengjun replied obediently. This is the 203rd segment out of 361. Please process the following content according to your logic. Maintain the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout, and only return the processed result. Old Scholar handed him a spoon. Turn the grinder twice, then scoop once. Our family's stone-ground soy milk smells great, and the tofu tastes even better. Lu Chengjun held the spoon, initially nervous, unsure whether to scoop too much or too little, but he quickly got the hang of it. He scooped more evenly than Old Scholar himself. Jomu watched and thought that each scoop of soybeans weighed about the same. Old Scholar thought he was capable, so he jumped down from the wooden stool and went to the kitchen to tend the fire and prepare dough for flour rolls. Only Zhou and Lu Chengjun were left. Neither of them liked to talk much, so they silently finished grinding the entire bucket of soybeans. After they were done, Lu Chengjun noticed that Zhou's father was sewing shoes with a needle. Grandpa Gigi's shoes were all made by Gigi's father. Watching Zhou's father stitch the shoes thread by thread, Lu Chengjun quickly ran back inside and took out the needle and thread kit he'd brought, handing it to him. This is a gift for you. I forgot to give it yesterday, Lu Chengjun said, blushing and out of breath. Jomu opened the kit and saw neatly arranged thread, needles, scissors, and a thimble. Looking at the quiet boy in front of him, he felt the gift was a bit odd. Jomu wasn't used to being around such a reserved child. Gigi's friends were all lively, Li Shangqian, Sanping, Wasabi, they were all quite mischievous, and Gigi was very active too. But this kid was quiet to an unbelievable degree, looking delicate and fragile. Jomu held up the sewing kit and pointed at Lu Chengjun's clothes. Your hem is torn. Want me to sew it for you? Lu Chengjun looked down and indeed saw a small tear. He didn't know if it was from the bus ride yesterday or something else. His family owned dozens of clothes like this. When they wore out, they just threw them away. He was about to say no, out of habit, but his head nodded first. Lu Chengjun took off his jacket, revealing an off-white thermal shirt underneath, soft but thinner. He sat beside Zhou's father and watched him skillfully sew, mending the hem with tight, careful stitches. In no time, it was done. The stitching was invisible. Lu Chengjun touched the hem and could feel a slightly stiff line. He put on the shirt, happily rubbing the mended spot over and over. It felt stiff, but his heart was warmed. It was his first time wearing clothes that had been mended. With static in the winter air, his soft curls stood up when he put on and took off the shirt, making him look like a happy little puppy. Jomu couldn't help but ruffle his hair. The sun climbed high. Two bears firmly guarded their food, believing that food would always fall from the trees into their mouths. Wu Jun looked hopelessly at the lake island not far away. The sun had steamed away the night's chill into mist. The lake island was shrouded in fog. No one knew what young Master Lu was busy with. At this moment, a big bowl of thick soy milk sat before Lu Chengjun, still steaming hot as it was poured. In the center of the table piled a mountain of crispy, fragrant fried dough sticks. These dough sticks weren't made by Old Scholar but were bought by Zhou's father on his bike, almost running back. He said it was from an old brand, fried especially well, using old oil and old flour. There were also bright green chive flour rolls and a large plate of fresh greens. Each person had a small dish of soy sauce. The greens are homegrown, and the soy sauce is homemade too. The soy milk is what you ground this morning. Eat more to have strength, Old Scholar said while grabbing some to eat. Everyone competed to eat the dough sticks, their speed quick. Grandpa Gigi and Dad didn't give in, and even Gigi ate very fast. Lu Chengjun unconsciously sped up, piling on lots of vegetables, afraid he wouldn't get enough. The dough sticks were crisp and sweet, the soy milk rich with a strong bean fragrance, and the chive rolls smelled delicious. After eating his fill, he felt extremely satisfied. He realized that from last night until morning, he hadn't thought about his mother once. Things that once seemed difficult had suddenly become so simple. Today, I'll take you to visit my family's zoo. There are so many animals, it's really fun, Gigi said, wearing a khaki shearling jacket, jeans, and short leather boots, looking very handsome. Wearing a white down jacket, Lu Chengjun appeared delicate in comparison. Grandpa Gigi said they would stew chicken mushrooms for lunch. They followed Zhou's father to prepare the ingredients. Zhou's father drove, with Gigi and Lu Chengjun in the back seat. My dad and I often ride horses there, but you can't ride yet, so we're driving. There are many cute little animals in the mountains. Lu Chengjun saw a tiger's tail out the window, sunlight shining on it. The tiger lazily lifted its head to look at him. It was so close, almost face to face. You can roll down the window a little, but not too much, or the animals will stick their heads inside, Gigi warned. Lu Chengjun nodded. Entering the zoo's forest area, he understood what Gigi meant. There's also a wild animal park in Dying City, but his parents never took him there. Now that he was in high school, he felt even more embarrassed to ask them. The car moved slowly. They first saw a herd of longhorn sheep running, then giraffes. A young deer poked its head into the car window, exhaling a stench of rotten grass. You can pet its head, Gigi said with a smile. Lu Chengjun reached out and touched it, soft and gentle. Unexpectedly, the little deer stuck out its tongue and licked his palm, much to his surprise. Leaving the deer behind, they arrived at the leopard enclosure, and all the car windows were rolled up. The trees lining the road were thick and lush when suddenly, a leopard dashed past the window. The car sped up, but the leopard ran even faster, as if racing them. Lu Chengjun was stunned, snapping photos rapidly. The car kept moving, and soon the leopard gave way to tigers. He glanced back and realized Era wasn't in the car anymore. Somehow, he jumped down and was running alongside the vehicle. A window was cracked open, letting the wind rush in. He could still smell the wild grass and frost in the air. Gigi excitedly leaned against the window, watching the running animals with him. Lu Chengjun felt a warm body pressing against his side. Beautiful, isn't it? I grew up deep in the mountains where there were lots of animals. I remember chasing pandas with Era back then. That guy was super fast, we could never catch him. Lu Chengjun blushed slightly and nodded. It really was beautiful, magical, unlike anything in his usual life, like stepping into another world. His life was so orderly, predictable. But Gigi's was as exciting as a fairy tale. After leaving the tiger enclosure, he saw elephants, there was a baby elephant nearby, and herds of horses running. Then they returned to a dense forest by the lake. The car stopped. 2 big bears live here. Dad says they're brothers and often come to the lake. Lu Chengjun looked at the thick woods, unable to imagine what the bears look like or how to get in. One has a patch of white fur on its head and is bigger, I call him Big Bear. The other has 2 white stripes on his belly and is smaller, I call him Little Bear. Little Bear's a bit slow, if you put down a jar of honey, he'll come running. Gigi and Lu Chengjun sat inside the car. Gigi's father got out holding a jar, poured half the honey by the roadside, then got back inside the car. After the car drove away, a bear with 2 white stripes on its belly emerged from the woods, heading straight for the honey jar, ignoring them completely. Lu Chengjun carefully took photos. Through the lens, he saw the bear licking the honey off the grass, accidentally scooping up some grass with its tongue, a truly amazing sight. Wu Jun, stuck up in a tree, heard the car and saw a bear run off, leaving only one guarding the tree. He sensed an opportunity. He pulled out a compressed biscuit from his bag and threw it hard. The bear followed it for a few steps. Slowly, Wu Jun began to slide down the tree, preparing to get down. Unexpectedly, the bear came back, snarling and baring its teeth, smashed the biscuit underfoot, stomped on it until it sank into the mud, clearly annoyed. Wu Jun felt hopeless. The compressed biscuit was so bad even the bear wouldn't eat it. Inside the car, Gigi pulled out snacks her grandfather had prepared: roasted beans, crispy and crackling. She grabbed a handful for her dad and Cheng-jun each. Suddenly, the car filled with the crunching sounds of roasted beans, the aroma wafting through the air. "I'm hungry. Let's head back," Gigi said. Cheng-jun nodded happily. The car turned around, leaving Little Bear clutching the honey jar with one paw, waving the other as if saying goodbye. At the National Assembly Hall, the lights were bright and the smoke hung thick, creating an almost dreamlike atmosphere. Mostly it was a gathering of old officials, puffing on cigarettes and drinking tea. The meetings were taxing on both body and mind, especially in such an environment. Lu Peidong sat upright, looking like he must have been handsome in his youth, standing out among the elderly men. He barely spoke, only nodding or shaking his head. But when the topic of spiritual civilization construction came up, he finally spoke. He specifically named Guangnan City, emphasizing that as a national economic frontier, its spiritual civilization must be strengthened and not neglected. Officials from Guangnan, who had been dozing off, suddenly perked up, alert and energized. They heard their social atmosphere was under scrutiny. Clever officials immediately suspected a major cleanup of entertainment venues in Guangnan was coming. Everyone anxiously checked if anyone in their circles was running such places and hurriedly called for their closure. No one dared to report them, for a simple reason. Cheng-jun's pen pal had mentioned an encounter with Guangnan businessmen. Though minor, these businessmen behaved badly once they reached Ganshi province and were probably worse back in Guangnan. As a national economic frontier, Guangnan couldn't tolerate such misconduct. After the meeting, Lu Peidong exited the hall. He rubbed his forehead until it hurt, then stopped. Outside, the sky was overcast, and the lights were dimmer than inside. But breathing the cold, dust-scented air felt better than being cooped up inside. After a few steps, a car was waiting. He was escorted inside. He lay back in the seat with his eyes closed, brows still furrowed. Only when he got home did he finally relax. The personal secretary handed over a letter sent from Ganshi province. Lu Peidong's furrowed brows relaxed slightly. Even though his children and grandchildren were not by his side, he still cared deeply. He didn't open the letter immediately but first went to his study. The secretary brewed a cup of strong tea, half tea leaves, half boiling water. Lu Peidong used to smoke a lot, but now that he couldn't, he switched to strong tea to stay alert. After a sip of the bitter tea, his mind cleared. People nowadays are increasingly untrustworthy with their words. Although text messages are convenient, they lack the personal touch of handwritten letters. Fortunately, Cheng-jun often corresponded with Ganshi. Lu Peidong had once mentioned the slow speed of mail delivery, but it had since improved significantly. What used to take 1 or 2 weeks now only took 3 to 5 days, and delivery to Shanghai Courtyard was even faster. The letter was thick. He hadn't received a personal letter in a long time. Most of his mail was official documents. Tearing open the envelope, a surge of joy welled up inside him. No wonder Cheng-jun always looked so happy when receiving letters. This feeling was truly wonderful. Inside were 3 photos. One showed a large platter of food. The braised pork was glossy and tempting, the greens were vibrant, the mushroom chicken soup had a warm orange hue, and there was a soft, unidentified dish resembling mashed potatoes, all looking appetizing. Each dish was exceptional. Another photo captured a huge black bear sticking out its tongue to lick grass, as if the camera were right in front of it, vivid and lifelike. The third showed Cheng-jun standing next to a pony, smiling broadly. Bathed in sunset light, he revealed neat teeth with a sharp little tiger tooth on the left side, giving him a mischievous look. Lu Peidong unfolded the letter. Cheng-jun's handwriting was neat, and joy radiated from every line. He wrote that the food was delicious, the zoo was fun, he was learning to ride horses, and he wanted to stay longer. Reading the letter over and over, Lu Peidong confirmed that Cheng-jun was truly happy, which eased his mind. What puzzled him was that Wu Jun, who had been sent out, hadn't reported back. No one knew why. Reassured that his grandson was safe, Lu Peidong let out a sigh of relief. He was grateful to the young girl and curious about why she made Cheng-jun so happy, as if she had unlocked something within him. After finishing his strong tea in the study, Wu Jun finally stumbled out, having struggled through the bear forest, tiger enclosure, leopard area, and monkey mountain, even tripping over wild horses on the way out. He sat at the park entrance, gasping for breath. Someone tossed a coin in front of him, followed by a passerby throwing a steamed bun. After hesitating, he picked up the bun and took bites. At that moment, a car drove down the nearby road, familiar faces inside. It was Gigi, Chungjun, and their father and grandfather, preparing to return to the countryside. In recent days, Lu Chungjun had become lively and cheerful, even calling Uncle Joe Papa Joe. He was quiet and intelligent, never causing trouble, and both Joe Mu and the old scholar liked him. Today they were headed to Gigi's hometown, and Lu Chungjun was especially excited, his cheeks flushed. As usual, he carried his camera on his back. Suddenly, he noticed a beggar sitting by the park entrance, dressed in rags, gnawing on a steamed bun in the cold winter. Lu Chungjun couldn't resist snapping a photo. In the frame was a man in tattered clothes, expression blank, with no decent shoes on his feet. Lu Chungjun thought to himself, Ganshi was indeed poor, but thankfully, Gigi's family was not like this. Lowering the camera, he looked at Gigi's carefree smile and felt grateful to Papa Joe. The bun-munching Wu Jun was still searching for the young master when he looked up and saw him with his signature camera, then watched the car drive away. He wanted to chase after it but noticed the tiger and large patterned snake in the truck bed, the snake's tail flicking beside the vehicle. From Shihu City to Pinko Village, the highway connected them closely, less than an hour's drive. They first stopped at Lufeng Town, then headed to Pinko Village. Lufeng Town was thriving, almost entirely bought up by Joe Mu. The scenery was beautiful, with the old street well preserved, surrounded by 6 peaks, and the climate cool, a rare scenic spot in Ganshi. Though there were more beautiful places, few small towns maintained their original look, were uniformly managed, and kept neat. Security was excellent. Elderly residents with armbands strolled the streets, and the town radiated warmth and energy. Unlike other tourist spots where visitors were often overcharged, here prices were clearly marked, and the people were honest and simple. "Is this your family's place?" Lu Chungjun asked curiously, looking out at the ancient houses, an uncle selling honey soy pudding, an aunt collecting chicken feathers, a lively scene full of life. "No, not in town. My home is in the village. When you first wrote to me as a child, I was attending elementary school in town. Everyone was poor then, so receiving paper and pens from you was a great joy." Hearing this, Lu Chungjun felt an instant fondness for the town. Leaving town, they headed toward the mountains. At first, no road appeared, but then a hidden highway emerged between 2 peaks. "We're almost at my home. I grew up here. I know every uncle, aunt, grandpa, grandma, and childhood friend in the village," Gigi said excitedly. After winding through several mountain roads, the view suddenly opened up. In the distance, pointed rooftops smoked gently against a blue sky. Lu Chungjun eagerly anticipated seeing Gigi's home. As the car entered the village, he was amazed. The village resembled a high-end residential community with advanced facilities. The grass was artificially planted, and horses and cattle roamed freely. Each building had a unique style. Only when he saw dried vegetables hanging outside the village office did Lu Chungjun believe it was truly a rural area. The car pulled up to Gigi's old family house. As soon as they arrived, Arrow and Xiaohua excitedly got off the car, with Xiaohua climbing down on her own. Pushing open the old house's door, it creaked with a squeak. Xiaohua rushed inside first, followed closely by Arrow. Gigi stood proudly at the doorway and said, "We grew up playing together with Arrow and Xiaohua right here in this yard." Lu Chungjun looked at the courtyard, sunlight slanted in, making everything clean and tidy. Jomu gazed at the courtyard, seeming momentarily lost, as if transported back to the time he had just been released from prison. It wasn't until Gigi shook his arm, calling out, "Dad," that he snapped back. Jomu looked up at Gigi and reached out to gently ruffle her hair, feeling grateful to have her by his side. Lu Chungjun also stood up, his eyes moist as he looked at Jomu. Jomu was momentarily stunned, then reached out to touzle his hair. This kid's curly hair was even softer than Gigi's straight strands. Old scholar cleared his throat. "Come on, get inside. What's the family doing standing at the door? I still have to deliver a scarf to Xiaohua." Gigi saw her grandfather draped in a beautiful red scarf and happily scooped him up, heading into the house. Lu Chungjun followed behind. Jomu wheeled himself in on his chair. Old scholar didn't bother resting, he insisted on visiting Grandma Lu and even pulled out a skateboard. Lu Chungjun hadn't expected old scholar to skateboard and found it trendy. He thought only city folks did that. Back in middle school, skateboarding was popular at his school. He could do it well but always played quietly by himself. Dressed in a bright tang suit with a big red scarf and carrying a leather bag filled with matching scarves for Grandma Lu, old scholar took the lead. Behind him, 2 little troublemakers followed. Gigi and Lu Chungjun each stood on their skateboards. The village roads were flat but had some steep spots. Old scholar sped ahead, trying to shake off the 2 little flashlights. Gigi's skateboarding skills were excellent. She didn't back down and even flipped and jumped off steps. Lu Chungjun was steadier but lost control on a steep slope until Gigi reached out and grabbed his hand. Hand in hand, they slid down from the hilltop to the bottom. At that moment, he felt like he was flying. While flying, he saw the most beautiful sunset, heard the sweetest laughter, felt the softest breeze, and remembered the most beautiful girl. The old house was smaller than the one on Lakehart Island, but cozier and more compact. It had no second floor, just a single story, with the upper level used as storage. Lu Changjun pushed open a door and saw hanging cured meats. At first, it seemed a bit eerie. But since it was Gigi's home, the dark cured meats felt endearing. When the wind blew, they clinked like wind chimes. The house was well kept, not too old, but everyone had to change their bedding. When they came back, the rooftop was covered with quilts drying in the sun. Meticulous Lu Changjun fumbled amid the piles of bedding, as if he'd fallen into a sea of quilts. In the end, Jomu helped him put on the quilt cover and straighten the sheets. Watching Jomu smoothly tuck the sheet under the mattress and fold it into neat triangles, Lu Changjun liked it very much. The sheet fit perfectly, each corner the same size. The quilt cover was also perfectly square, like a hotel standard. Curious, Lu Changjun asked, "Dad Joe, how do you cover quilts so quickly and so well?" Jomu habitually folded quilts and paused before saying, "I used to be in prison. We had to work there, and those who scrambled to wash and fold quilts were the luckiest. I was lucky." Lu Changjun was stunned. He never imagined Gigi's dad had been in prison. In his mind, Dad Joe had always been a good man, skilled, focused, and kind to Gigi, Grandpa Scholar, and himself. After the bedding was done, Jomu said, "You have to go to the back of the kitchen to bathe. The bedroom doesn't have a bathroom, so it's inconvenient. If you want to shower, go now, later it'll get cold." Lu Changjun loved cleanliness and showered every day. Taking Dad Joe's advice, he grabbed his clothes and headed to bathe. Dad Joe handed him a deer-pattern towel and a loofah washcloth, which Lu Changjun happily accepted. The bathhouse was right behind the kitchen, adjacent to it. While Grandpa Scholar cooked in the kitchen, Lu Changjun chatted with him during his shower. Unable to hold back, Lu Changjun asked about Dad Joe's past. Old Scholar said seriously, "People who've been in prison aren't necessarily bad. I'm not Gigi's biological grandpa, nor am I related to Jomu. I used to live in a shed at the village office, with no children. Jomu took me in. No one else has been as kind to me as he has. The shower head hadn't been used in a long time, water flowed unevenly, some holes clogged, some enlarged, but the water was still hot, streaming down with a rush." Lu Changjun felt a bit dazed. He hadn't expected that Gigi's grandpa wasn't her real grandfather, and that her dad had been in prison. He'd thought Gigi was very happy, but suddenly realized that wasn't entirely true. Being sensitive to everything, he deeply understood the pain of being mocked and isolated. After a hot shower steamed his face rosy, making him look very good. After he finished, Gigi came in with a pile of things, ready to bathe as well. Lu Changjun sat by his grandfather's stove, curiously helping to stoke the fire. Gigi's letter had said that sitting by the fire in winter was very warm, making your cheeks rosy red. He stuffed a lot of firewood into the stove, listening to the crackling sounds. From the bathroom came the rush of water. Gigi was humming a song inside. Grandpa was cooking by the stove, waving a large spatula. Lu Changjun felt that this kind of life was really good. Gigi came out after her bath, wearing a little tiger pajama with a tiger tail, her cheeks rosy and damp, looking especially beautiful, so much so that you couldn't help but want to take a bite. Lu Changjun glanced at her, then looked down and continued stuffing firewood into the stove. The crackling fire sounded like his heartbeat. Dinner was plentiful. Lu Changjun's appetite had grown from half a bowl to 2 bowls, and he wasn't even full. Running around with Gigi every day meant a lot of exercise. After dinner, Gigi's friends arrived. The tall and skinny one was Li Shangqian, the black and stout one was Wang Sanping, Wang Meizhu with well-developed chest, and Wang Suetue who talked fast. Lu Changjun recognized them instantly. They were all part of Gigi's life, often mentioned in her letters, and now part of his life too. Li Shangqian had long wanted to come to the city to see Gigi. He had just returned from abroad, and Gigi had just come back too. He came first thing. Seeing the handsome Lu Changjun, Li Shangqian was a bit hostile at first, never expecting Gigi's pen pal to be so good-looking. They had heard so much about him from Gigi, their ears almost worn out. They quickly became familiar. Although Lu Changjun was from the big city, he was down-to-earth and easier to get along with than their classmates. Especially Wang Suetue and Wang Meizhu, they circled around Lu Changjun, wanting to touch his hair and pinch his cheeks. Lu Changjun was too pretty, fair-skinned with softly curled hair, gentle and quiet in demeanor, eyes that seemed to speak. Their enthusiasm made Lu Changjun a little shy. Seeing Gigi chatting with friends, he found an excuse to step outside for some fresh air. At the door, he wanted to leave but saw villagers chatting, overwhelmed by their warmth. When the villagers saw Gigi and him, they all wanted to come over and touch him, so he stayed put. Didn't expect the girl Jomu picked up to grow even more beautiful. No one on TV can compare, a villager said quietly with a heavy accent. At night, the villagers dispersed. The old house suddenly fell silent. 4 bamboo chairs were placed at the yard's entrance, with a fire pit in the middle. Everyone bundled up thickly, sitting around the chairs. The wind was cold, but the fire was warm. Gigi pointed to the village streetlights ahead and said, "From here you can see the whole village, like a big bottle." The streetlights formed a large circle, flickering like fireflies inside a bottle. Surrounding them were dark mountains, with this bottle shining among them, a beautiful sight. Grandpa, in high spirits, kept tossing potatoes into the fire, which blazed brightly. Dad Joe brought out a tin wine flask from inside the house. It contained homemade rice wine from the villagers, placed by the fire to warm, giving off a faint aroma of rice sweetness and fermented scent. Dad Joe took out 4 cups, pouring more wine for the old scholar and himself, less for Gigi and Lu Chengjun. Lu Chengjun took the cup, feeling a bit awkward. He'd never had wine before. The old scholar smiled and said, "Don't worry. This wine has ginger and brown sugar added. Women drink it during postpartum confinement. 1 sip in winter warms your whole body and keeps you cozy at night." Gigi added, "I could drink a whole ceramic jar cup when I was 5 or 6. It's quite sweet." Lu Chengjun took a small sip. Sweet with a hint of mild spiciness. When he took the second sip, he poured too much and finished the whole cup. Immediately, his hands and feet warmed up, and his face flushed red. His skin was pale like paper. When he first arrived, he looked sickly. The old scholar and Jomu complained quietly, "This kid wasn't raised well, looks like he won't live long." Really pitiful. Jomu was cold by nature. When someone teased Gigi, he plotted revenge against those Guangnan merchants, sabotaging their projects, selling land at high prices, then buying it back at half price, even purchasing more land. But deep down, he was soft-hearted and lenient toward Lu Chengjun. Even though he was a boy, he didn't stop him from being with Gigi. Lu Chengjun's life was pitiful. After coming here for so long, no one had called him. All he did was write letters to his grandfather, and no one paid attention. When Gigi went to other homes, her family called to check on her every day, but no one cared about him, which was heartbreaking. In fact, Grandpa Lu had assigned a national security bodyguard to watch over his grandson, thinking it was enough. After all, the bodyguard protected national leaders, and the grandson was just visiting his pen pal to write letters and have fun. Lu Jinhua was busy with tasks and didn't even know his son had gone out alone. Lu Amo took her daughter to Fashion Week, thinking about building a high-end custom brand, trusting that Grandpa was watching over her son, so she felt at ease. So everyone thought someone was taking care of Lu Chengjun, but in reality, no one was. After drinking a third of the wine, Lu Chengjun felt a bit excited, his face turned redder, and he talked more. He even asked for more wine. Jomu thought, if Gigi could drink a big ceramic jar cup without issue, a boy having some wine was no problem. So he poured him half a cup more. This is segment 208 of 361. Please process the following content according to your logic. Maintain the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. Lu Chengjun held the cup, took a small sip, then drained it in one gulp. Jomu watched and found it amusing. Impressive tolerance. Didn't expect Chengjun to be such a good drinker, the old scholar chuckled in praise. He was an old drinker himself, able to handle 2 gin of white liquor without issue. He thought the rice wine with brown sugar was as easy to drink as soda, so he didn't take it seriously. Gigi was even more impressive. She finished a cup in one go, then poured another. After drinking, her whole body felt warm and comfortable. Sitting by the fire warmed the outside, but drinking warmed from within, a very different sensation. The potatoes roasted quickly. The old scholar used tongs to pick out each blackened potato. They were hot to the touch, blowing on them, and the cold wind outside cooled them just enough. Gigi broke one open, revealing the soft white potato steaming inside. She handed half to Chengjun. It was the first time Lu Chengjun ate potatoes like this. Usually fastidious, he disliked the earthy smell. But tonight, drinking had loosened him up. Not only did he accept it, he also helped Grandpa Joe and Dad Joe peel the potato skins. Before long, his face and hands were covered in black soot. The potato was a bit dry, so he asked for another cup of rice wine. The warm, sweet, and slightly spicy rice wine paired perfectly with the roasted potatoes. The cold wind, the fire, the old house, the small village, and the starry sky above. With soot smudged across his face like a tabby cat, Lu Chengjun smiled and said, "If my mom knew I was this happy, she'd be upset. She'd come back to give me medicine and make me lie in bed, crying as she searched for my grandpa. He took another drink after speaking. Leaning his head back against the chair, he surprisingly fell asleep, mumbling, "Mom, don't give me medicine." The sleeping boy's tears streamed down his face, washing away the soot. Gigi, Dad Joe, and the old scholar all froze. The cold wind blew, and the old scholar said, "Let's bring him inside to sleep." Jomu stood up and lifted the boy. He was so light, even lighter than Gigi. Beneath the down jacket, his ribs were visible to the touch. The wind ruffled the boy's curly hair and the raccoon fur on his hat. Midnight. Lu Chungjun woke up. Dim light filled the room, and the howling wind outside could be heard. The room wasn't cold, a warming stove by the bed radiated heat. His down jacket was gone, but he still wore the same clothes from earlier in the day. His throat felt dry. There was a kettle of hot water and a glass by the bedside. He sat up and poured some water, the dryness easing. His head still felt a little dizzy. After changing into pajamas and drinking more water, he lay back down. The quilt smelled like sunshine, and the room carried the scent of aged wood. A large apple sat on the bedside table, its sweet fragrance close to his nose. There was still the scent of alcohol on him, and his head ached slightly after drinking. This was his first time drinking. Lying in bed, his body soft but sleepless. He couldn't remember what he said while drunk. Those were scenes he often dreamed of. Dreams where his mother smiled, offering him a drink. But he always woke up drenched in sweat. He hadn't had such dreams since coming to Gigi's place. He thought maybe last night's drinking had brought on another nightmare. It seemed that whenever he overheard others' conversations, he heard bad things. His mother thought he wasn't sick enough and wanted to add more medicine. Gigi was adopted. Dad Joe wasn't her biological father. The old scholar wasn't his real grandfather. If he hadn't heard it himself, he wouldn't have believed these truths. Gigi's home was warm, a warmth he had never seen anywhere else. Yet in this warm home, there wasn't a single drop of blood relation. Unable to sleep, he picked up his camera and lay in bed flipping through photos. The pictures showed Gigi, Grandpa Shokai, Dad Joe, Erhu, Xiaohua, and himself, everyone smiling happily. Looking at the photos, even his usually serious self couldn't help but smile. Unconsciously, he fell asleep holding the camera. The next morning, he woke to find the camera neatly placed on the nightstand. The quilt was tucked in tightly, cocooning him like a silkworm. Clearly, someone had covered him. Outside, it was lively. Sunlight streamed through the gaps in the wooden walls in streaks. The light broke into patches, falling on the old wooden floor and furniture, giving a rustic, cozy feel. He captured this beautiful scene with his camera. Tiny particles floated in the sunlit air, like permanent guests of the old house. Stepping out of the room, the day was already bright. He had slept till noon. Feeling a bit embarrassed seeing Gigi, Dad Joe, and Grandpa Shokai, Lu Chengjun vaguely remembered possibly saying strange things last night. After hearing the locals' words, he still felt uneasy. Gigi saw him up and called him to the backyard. She pulled a handful of green grass from the ground, rinsed it with water, and handed it to him. "Chew this. It helps sober you up." Gigi smiled like a song, joyful and adorable. He silently felt relieved he hadn't said anything weird last night. He didn't want anyone to know about his mother's situation. He wanted to keep the secret to himself. He didn't refuse and put the grass in his mouth. It was a bit foul but cool, and his head instantly cleared. "What is this?" "Mint. So refreshing. Yeah, the foals on the ranch all love it." As she spoke, a foal ambled over slowly, sniffed the grass, then opened its mouth and started chewing. It watched him warily. Lu Chungjun tossed the remaining mint to it. The foal leapt up and caught it with its mouth, then turned and ran off, leaving its fluffy tail swaying behind. Sunlight bathed the running foal, casting a golden glow that made it look stunning. Lu Chengjun watched the scene with delight, then turned to Gigi and said, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" "Yeah. Eat more at lunch, and in the afternoon I'll take you to the ranch to ride horses and patrol the hills," Gigi said with a smile, patting his arm. Lu Chengjun nodded happily. Looking up, the winter wind still bit sharply, but the sun was bright, with not a trace of gloom. Watching Gigi basking in the sunlight, he felt like a caterpillar covered in calluses, while she was a beautiful butterfly. He wanted to break free from his cocoon and fly with her. Suddenly, his heart filled with strength. No longer afraid, no longer despairing. Because there was new hope. Life had new meaning. In the afternoon, the sun shone brightly. The winter in Gansu province was cold. Under the sun it didn't feel chilly. After lunch and a short rest, Gigi took Lu Chengjun to the ranch. When they climbed to the edge and looked down from above, the view was truly beautiful. It was exactly the scene he saw every day in his paintings. Even more moving in reality. Though the grass was no longer green in winter, The yellowed hues brought a different kind of strength and beauty. The vast prairie stretched endlessly, with a lake at its center, forests and sky in the distance, and herds of yaks, sheep, and horses scattered across the grass. Looking at this scenery, all his worries seemed to vanish. No wonder Gigi had such a good personality. No wonder her eyes were always so clear. Because she grew up here. This place was simply beautiful. And Gigi embodied all its goodness. The two of them strolled across the grassland. Since they drank last night, Gigi didn't let Chengjun ride horses, fearing he'd catch a cold from the wind. After hearing his strange words, Gigi felt even more tolerant of Chengjun. She always thought he was a bit pitiful. No wonder he never mentioned his mother in letters. He didn't have a mother, but in his heart, she must have been a good woman. Actually, Gigi was a little worried too. What if his mother wasn't a good person? If she really wasn't, she'd just watch from afar, pretend not to see, and continue living happily with her father and grandfather. Each carrying their own thoughts, they slowly stepped through the grass. The sunlight warmed their faces, the cold wind blew gently, and they passed through herds of horses and sheep to reach the lake, where a group of beautiful yaks grazed. The yaks were large and long-haired but very gentle. The biggest one was pure white, completely snow-white with not a hint of black, its fur white as well. It wore beautiful ornaments that looked like amber or turquoise. Lu Chengjun was amazed and took out his camera to photograph it. It was like a king, unafraid of people. As it walked, its ornaments jingled, looking majestic. That one's named Zhuoma. Legend says the pure white yak is a deity descended to earth. If you make a wish to it and offer beautiful amber or turquoise, it will help your wish come true. The ornaments it wears are gifts from the villagers. Gigi said with a smile. Actually, this was an idea from Grandpa the Scholar. At first, Grandpa the Scholar painted himself, and people said the painting could bring children, calling him a lucky star, so all the new brides wanted to find him. Later, when he went to school in town and county, people still sought him out. So Grandpa the Scholar got himself a yak named Zhuoma. This was not the first one. Some of the ornaments were handed down from the previous Zhuoma. As long as a yak became Zhuoma, it was very fortunate, spending its days wandering the prairie, drinking water, receiving gifts, and when its life ended, a new Zhuoma would take its place. They continued walking, reaching the other side of the ranch, near the forest. This area was shaded, rocky, with ravines and streams, and a bit cold in winter. In summer, Xiaohua likes to cool off here. Under the rocks, there are probably many little Xiaohua hiding. Lu Chengjun was a bit afraid of snakes. Xiaohua was Gigi's pet, which he barely accepted, but little Xiaohua, he didn't want to touch at all. He didn't go in but pulled Gigi toward the sunny spot and finally relaxed. His body was weak, and cold, damp places made him especially uncomfortable. They moved forward. Entering the woods, they saw a mound of earth, beside which sat an elderly woman. Curious, Lu Chengjun asked, "What's this for?" Gigi said, "This is Grandpa Wu's grave. Grandpa Wu's old wife, Grandma Li, is here to keep him company for a while, and she'll leave soon." Gigi walked over to greet her. The elderly woman didn't sit on the ground but on a worn cotton pillow. "Gigi," Grandma Li said, trembling as she stood up, then picked up a plastic bag, wrapped the pillow inside, and put it back by the mound. She glanced at Lu Chengjun, a kind smile spreading across her face. "Young man, you're really handsome, almost as good-looking as my old man." Lu Chengjun blushed at her words. "Go home and cook dinner, feed the pigs." Old Mrs. Li patted her backside, stood up, and strode powerfully out of the woods on strong legs. Lu Chengjun noticed something on the dirt mound, seemed like a photo. He pulled out his camera and leaned in to take a closer look. In the photo were two people, one was the elderly lady who had just left, and the other was an old man, face deeply wrinkled, with only one front tooth left, wearing a crumpled traditional button shirt. The wrinkles on his neck were thicker than tree bark. He asked Gigi in disbelief, "Do I look like this, Grandpa?" Gigi studied the photo carefully, then looked at Lu Chengjun and smiled, nodding, a little. Grandpa Wu was quite handsome when he was young. They say besides Grandma Li, there were other women too. Lu Chengjun looked at Gigi, noticing a hint of constraint in her expression. He knew she was teasing him. What should have been a sad story was somehow made into a joke. "In the future, put our photo on my tombstone, and you come keep me company," Lu Chengjun suddenly said. Gigi thought for a moment, then nodded solemnly. "You're not healthy. I'm afraid you'll go first, and I'll just sit outside while you're inside, keeping you company." Lu Chengjun didn't get upset. He nodded seriously. Even in death, being this close wasn't a big deal. Pinky promise. Their hands linked together over the grave mound. The boys took this as a solemn vow, utterly sincere. Crackling, crackling. The sound of firecrackers echoed continuously. Today was Little New Year. Before dawn, the firecrackers had already started going off. Lu Chengjun lived in Beijing, where firecrackers were banned. He had never seen firecrackers at either his grandfather's place or his own home. The first crack startled him. Thinking it was gunfire, he rushed into Gigi's room. She was tossing and turning, not sleeping soundly. Lying on her side, her little feet stuck out from under the blanket, her lips pursed as if she were a baby. Hearing the noise, she rolled over, half opening her eyes groggily. "Don't be scared, it's firecrackers. They'll go off all day." Seeing Lu Chengjun standing clueless in striped pajamas, his curly hair sticking up like a silly little deer, Gigi mumbled sleepily and shifted closer. "If you're scared, sleep next to me." Gigi's bed was bigger than a normal one because she tossed and kicked the covers a lot. Jomu had specially made a larger bed for her. At 14, Lu Chengjun was seen by Gigi as a pitiful little kid. No one cared for him, weak and prone to fainting after slight exercise, taking medicine daily, and never winning his mother's favor. He stood there dumbfounded until Gigi finally got up and pulled him onto the bed. "Go to sleep." Lu Chengjun lay straight and still. He barely changed position all night except once when he'd gotten drunk. Now, lying rigid, covered by the quilt, Gigi was less than an arm's length away. Outside the window, firecrackers continued to pop. The noise was loud, but not as loud as his heartbeat. He felt his heart pounding like thump-thump, on the verge of stopping. He thought about taking his medicine. But glancing at Gigi's profile, long eyelashes, soft face, he couldn't bring himself to move. Not daring to look at her, he quietly recited the periodic table in his mind: hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, argon, potassium, calcium, scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese. After reciting it once, his heart was still racing, so he went through it again. Fully focused on the periodic table, his mind filled only with chemical symbols, the firecrackers faded into the background, and his heartbeat gradually steadied. No need for medicine. Gigi was sleeping soundly, but suddenly stretched out a leg and casually draped it over him. Lu Chengjun's mental chemistry lesson was thrown into chaos. The periodic table was too simple. He started quietly reciting calculus formulas instead. Yes, memorizing equations. Though still in high school, he had already taught himself college-level calculus, and could ask tutors if he got stuck. Basic derivative formulas. 1, c equals 0. 2, x to the power of m equals mx caret m1. 3, sin x equals cosine x. 4, cosine x equals sin x. 5, tan x equals sec caret 2x. 6, cot x equals csc caret 2x. 7, secx equals secx times tan x. 8, cscx equals cscx times cot x. 9, e to the power of x equals e to the power of x. 10, a to the power of x equals a to the power of x ln a. 11, ln x equals 1/x. Gigi was fast asleep, but a buzzing noise, louder than a mosquito, filled her ears. She waved her hand to shoo it away. Then finally quieted down, shifting into a comfortable position to continue sleeping. Lu Chengjun's whole body burned with heat, his face flushed, and his heart raced. Because Gigi had taken him as a pillow, holding him tightly as she slept. One leg draped over him, an arm wrapped around him, her head resting near his shoulder. He could feel Gigi's steady breathing, the warm breath brushing his neck, slowly spreading warmth throughout his body. Lu Chengjun felt as if he were about to be enveloped by a wave of heat. He had never experienced anything like this before. Although his body felt uncomfortable, it wasn't pain, it was a strange sensation caught somewhere between pain and pleasure. Leaning on Gigi's side, his body grew numb from tension, as if the blood had stopped flowing. On the other side, the blood rushed faster, and his whole body felt flushed with heat. He reached out, intending to push Gigi away. When his hand touched her face, it felt so soft, like sinking into something tender. It was skin, just like his own. Touching his own face gave him no feeling. But touching Gigi's face was like an electric shock, the current running from his hand through his entire body. Lu Chengjun suddenly turned over, gasping for air, and pulled Gigi into his arms. During the day, Gigi was so agile, but in his embrace, she fit perfectly. Her body was soft, her breath sweet, and she gave off a faint fragrance. He felt like he was holding the most wonderful thing in the world. Not a thing. A unique person. Even asleep, her lips moved unconsciously, as if eating something. Lu Chengjun hugged her a little too tightly, stiffening. It felt like Gigi was biting him, his neck tingling with a pleasant numbness. He lowered his head and gently kissed her forehead. Soft. Outside the window, the deafening crackle of firecrackers exploded. Through the gaps in the wooden house, he saw flickering flames. Lu Chungjun loosened his hold on Gigi and sat up. The firecrackers were set off at the old house. It must be that Dad Joe and Grandpa Shotsai had gotten up. He looked at Gigi reluctantly, bent down to kiss her forehead again, and tucked the blanket around her. Then he returned to his own room. He slept soundly through the night. The firecracker sounds faded away, and in his dreams, there was only Gigi. Snow was falling. Red lanterns hung at the old house's entrance, dusted with a layer of white snow. The red remnants of firecrackers on the ground were covered by snow. Xiaohua had already slipped from the yard into the kitchen. The kitchen was the warmest spot in the old house. The stove fire kept burning. If Xiaohua hadn't grown bigger and the kitchen light hadn't been bright, hiding among the firewood by the stove, it might have been mistaken for firewood and burned. In winter, Xiaohua looked lifeless, stiff as a board. Lu Chungjun never imagined he'd be so close to a large python. He realized he was especially sensitive to the cold. Though the old house was better, it had no heating. He had to go outside to bathe or use the bathroom. He was also very clean. Early in the morning, after holding his clothes and showering, he sat by the stove shivering. Even with the fire blazing, he still felt cold. Old Shotsai liked him very much. He liked this obedient boy who was like a cat, handsome and quiet. Gigi was different, mischievous. When she practiced calligraphy and painting as a child, old Shotsai would get so angry he nearly spat blood. Chengjun was different. He could quietly watch paintings all day, focused and serious. Except when Gigi dragged him out, he rarely left the house. Old people often get lonely. Jomu liked Chengjun too. He saw him in the kitchen helping old Shotsai arrange offerings. Today was the stove god's festival. Chengjun was thin but tall, carrying a pig's head. He wore Gigi's big pink sweater. It wasn't his own. He didn't have enough clothes to change. Jomu had bought it. Jomu always bought plenty of clothes in all sizes for his daughter, worried she wouldn't find the right size as she grew. So Chengjun wearing Gigi's oversized sweater fit just right. Chungjun's fair skin looked good in pink. The boy had delicate features but wasn't effeminate. He was meticulous in everything he did. He arranged the plates neatly, making sure the distances and directions were consistent. Jomu remembered an old inmate who was like that, but that man was scary, and he never dared get close. "Good morning, Dad Joe," Chengjun greeted sweetly. Jomu nodded, thinking he had overthought it. Here was a rosy-lipped, white-toothed good boy. Though Chengjun was serious, he was obviously inexperienced with housework. During the countryside New Year, many delicious foods are made starting this day. Fried dough sticks, lychee-flavored pork, torches, fried fish, marinated meat. Old Shotsai was busy non-stop. Gigi had to help too. Jomu's mines, ranches, vegetable gardens, and real estate company all needed inventory and settlement before the holiday. The women at home were busy. The men went out with Jomu to distribute benefits and pick up New Year goods. White smoke curled from the old house, filling the air with fragrance. The kitchen looked out onto the yard. Previously it had wooden shelves, but Jomu installed glass to block the cold wind and improve the view. Inside the kitchen, old Shotsai was the chef, with Gigi and Chengjun assisting. Meiju's mom brought pork. Seeing the two boys in pink sweaters, she said enviously, "Uncle Shotsai, you're like a bodhisattva now. These two kids are like the bodhisattva's attendants." Old Shotsai laughed and replied, "Your little Mei is good too. Have her come over to play sometime." "Sure, she can help during the New Year. Once she's done, she'll probably want to stay at your place every day. She says the food at Gigi's house smells better than anywhere else." Meiju's mom said this while putting down half a pork shoulder and hurried off to see someone off. Chengjun was surprised by how strong the villagers were. He wanted to lift the meat but couldn't. Yet the ant casually carried it away with ease. Old Shotsai laughed and said, "It's okay if you can't lift pork now. When you grow up, just be able to carry your wife." This is segment 212/361. Please process the following content according to your logic. Keep the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout, and return only the processed result. When Grandpa the scholar said that, Lu Chungjun's face immediately flushed red. He sneaked a glance at Gigi, his face turning even redder, his ears burning hot. The oil in the pot bubbled and sputtered as Lu Chengjun carefully cut the lychee flesh into uniform pieces, which floated and sank in the hot oil. Gigi looked on with a greedy expression, standing by the fire and watching the pot. This year's lychee meat looked especially delicious. After finally frying a batch, just as they were taken out of the oil, Gigi eagerly reached out to grab some, only to be slapped away by Grandpa the scholar. Lu Chungjun saw Gigi clutching her hand and gasping, and couldn't help but laugh. As Grandpa the scholar turned around, Gigi quickly stole two pieces, one for herself, and one she stuffed into Lu Chungjun's mouth. Lu Chungjun felt the heat and gently sucked on Gigi's hand. When Grandpa the scholar turned back, the two pretended nothing had happened. With Grandpa's back turned, Lu Chungjun also secretly grabbed a piece and quickly slipped it to Gigi. Gigi bit down so fast she nearly bit Lu Chungjun's hand. Grandpa continued kneading the dough, Gigi sat by the fire tending it, and Lu Chungjun stood beside Grandpa, watching the meat in the pot, occasionally sneaking bites to feed Gigi. Looking at Gigi's rosy little mouth, Lu Chungjun thought to himself, I wish I could keep feeding her like this forever. Outside the old house, heavy snow fell, covering the roads. Amid the wind and snow, Wu Jun trudged forward, his steps uneven. Seeing the old house, Wu Jun took a deep breath, he had finally arrived. At the doorway, he noticed a tiger proudly staring at him. This year, the climate in Shilin was abnormal. Though it was supposed to be spring-like year-round, it was so cold it felt like your ears could fall off. The continuous mountains, towering trees reaching into the clouds, and the barren primeval forest where tall grass grew as high as a person. Beneath the grass lay several people, so well camouflaged that a casual glance wouldn't reveal them. Their bodies matched the color of the grass, their faces blue from the cold. Lying on the wet, frosty grass, they felt even colder. Lu Jinua's nose itched, as if a bug had crawled in. He wanted to sneeze but held it back silently. He turned his head and saw Lao Gao not far off, tearing at a piece of jerky. Want some? Lao Gao shook the jerky as an offer. The others remained lying down. Lu Jinua carefully crawled over and leaned shoulder to shoulder with him, feeling his shoulder warm immediately. Lu Jinua envied Lao Gao's strong body. Though they both trained in the army, he wasn't as fit. Lately, his ankle had been acting up, nearly twisting it while walking. It was swollen as if filled with water. But at this moment, Lu Jinua ignored these troubles, leaning on Lao Gao and taking a piece of jerky to imitate tearing it apart. The jerky was as thick as a finger and endless, good for slow chewing. Seeing Lao Gao look up, staring above, Lu Jinua asked curiously, "What are you looking at?" "A hanging spider. This kind of spider likes to hang from tall trees, secreting venom. Insects and wild animals that pass by and eat it become its prey." Lu Jinua listened with a chill down his spine but was too weak to move. "So, why are we lying here eating?" he asked anxiously. Lao Gao glanced at him sideways and shook his head. "Only mature green-headed hanging spiders have poisonous secretions. The immature ones are delicious, better than jam." Lu Jinua looked up. The forest was so dense he could only see a sliver of sky. He had no idea if it was clear outside, let alone see any spiders. Suddenly, gunshots rang out. Lao Gao pushed him, and the two of them fell to the ground together. The ticking sounded like hoofbeats, or perhaps music. Lu Jinua found it strange that such chaotic thoughts filled his mind. Especially when a bullet whizzed past his temple, a girl's image flashed in his mind, sitting atop the military camp's high wall, swinging her legs and waving, shouting, "Daddy!" In the end, Lu Chungjun could not stay at Gigi's home for the new year. When Uncle Wu Jun came to Pinko village, he knew it was time to say goodbye. The return flight had a special first-class lounge. Wu Jun couldn't quite say what had happened these past few days, but he felt the young master had changed a lot. When boarding the plane, the young master looked pale, as if he might collapse at any moment, but when leaving, his expression was calm, his health visibly improved. He didn't nervously grip the armrest or use a painting to cover his eyes. Instead, he gazed softly out the window. If it weren't for their identical looks, Wu Jun would have doubted this was really the young master. Considering technology wasn't that advanced yet, Wu Jun felt somewhat reassured. But the change was undeniable. The young master used to look sickly and extremely weak. Now, though not strong, he seemed much healthier and more spirited, no longer depressed. Wu Jun thought to himself, the young master's illness wasn't hard to cure. Why did the old leadership invite so many experts? It'd be better to send him to the countryside to experience life. He figured it was a rich man's disease, living a simple life would do him good. The plane landed in Dying City, where the temperature was much warmer. The sky was overcast, unlike the bright skies of Shihu City. Wu Jun took a deep breath, smelling the scent of coal dust. Looking at the crisscrossing overpasses, he felt Dying City was very familiar. Reflecting on the terrifying experience just past, it felt like a rebirth, terrifying beyond words. He saw the young master safely into Zhanghai compound, having heard that mom and sister wouldn't return until the next day, so the house was empty. This is content segment 213/361. Please process the following text according to your logic while preserving the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. In the past, he spoke cautiously, afraid the child would be upset. But now, when young Master Lu heard it, his face was full of smiles as he said, "Perfect, Gigi brought Grandpa a lot of food. Going straight to Grandpa's place is even better. The plane arrived in Beijing after dark that afternoon. Lu Peidong was delighted to see Chung Jun return and happily grabbed his grandson's hand, repeating good twice. Chung Jun was quite happy too. He took out a large bag of New Year goods from his suitcase. These are made by Gigi's family. There's cured meat, roast duck, and high mountain tea they picked themselves. It has glutinous rice grass inside, giving it a fragrant rice aroma when you drink it, he explained. Lu Peidong looked at Chung Jun in surprise. The boy was usually a neat freak, yet he was handling these things with his own hands and explaining them so confidently. At the meal, Chung Jun was no longer silent like before. Instead, he chatted excitedly without stopping. After dinner, he showed photos to his grandparents on his camera. Grandma Wu Jinhua was from the countryside and found the scenes in the camera familiar: the kitchen god festival, frying crispy pork, lanterns, firecrackers. The two elders and their grandson looked together, creating a warm atmosphere. Seeing a photo of Gigi's grandfather, Lu Peidong said, though disabled, he looks dignified and refined. In the photo, Zhou Mu was making shoes. Lu Peidong said nothing more but simply thought he was an honest man. Really not easy, being both a father and a mother, Grandma sighed, watching Zhou Mu skillfully sewing shoes. There were no direct photos of Gigi because Chung Jun blushed just looking at her, let alone taking pictures. Most were candid shots of her back or side profile. Lu Peidong saw one photo showing a little girl tiptoeing to hang a lantern, a side silhouette full of artistic feeling. The old house, bright red lanterns, and the girl wearing a red sweater and jeans looked like a painting. Chung Jun must like this girl, taking such good photos. Lu Peidong said, then saw his grandson blush deeply and couldn't help but laugh. If you like someone, you have to be brave to pursue them. Your grandma chased me like that back then. Hearing this, Wu Jinhua reached out her wrinkled hand and gave Lu Peidong a hard pinch, jokingly scolding, "Who knew back then? She was always calling me sister and following me everywhere." Chung Jun shyly said, "Gigi is 1 year older than me." A clean white ceiling, carnations with dewdrops, fresh green leaves, and Gigi full of vitality. A soft bed and pillow, clean windows, smooth tiled floor, and drops of medicine hanging upside down in bottles. Lu Jinhua woke up. Opening his eyes and seeing these things, he knew he was no longer in Shilin. He had been to the hospital in Shilin, but there was no bed or window there. Everyone crowded into a small room to get IVs. Outside was an old street where big trucks raised dust as they passed. Patients had to go to the toilet themselves. It was a long gutter full of feces and flies. Being sick there was worse than dying. He felt weak but relaxed and safe, so he closed his eyes again. When he opened them again, there was a woman in the room. She wore an off-white long dress with an irregular hem and a thin belt at the waist highlighting a slender figure. Her straight black hair framed her face as she was changing flowers. The dew on the white carnations hadn't dried, but she was already replacing them with blue baby's breath. The blue baby's breath looked like wildflowers, but gathered in a big bunch, they resembled a starry sky. The woman hummed softly, tossing the carnations into a nearby trash bin, waiting for the nurse to come clean up. "You're awake." Seeing her husband open his eyes, Lu Mo exclaimed with joy and hurried to sit by the bed, forgetting to straighten the vase. "How do you feel?" Lu Jinhua felt the warmth of Lu Mo's hand, cool and moist. "I'm okay. How are Xiaoman and Chung Jun?" "They're both fine. Chung Jun said he wants to make soup for you, he just learned cooking. Xiaoman went downstairs to buy some things and will be back soon." Just then, Lu Xiaoman pushed the door open. Seeing Dad awake, she rushed over wanting to hug him but was stopped by Lu Mo. "Be careful, Dad's injury isn't healed yet." Lu Xiaoman sat beside the bed, tears rolling down as she softly asked, "Dad, does it hurt?" Lu Jinhua stroked her head and smiled, shaking his head, "No, you've become even more beautiful." Hearing her father's words, Xiaoman smiled through her tears. She had been practicing dance, tall and graceful, and with Lu Mo's careful nurturing, had become a beautiful and elegant teenager. Having faced life and death, Lu Jinhua treasured everything he had before him even more. At that moment, Lu Chengjun came in carrying a thermos. Seeing mom and sister leaning close to Dad, he didn't feel left out but confidently walked over. He opened the thermos, and the faint herbal aroma of chicken soup wafted out. "This is chicken specially picked from the market by Chung Jun, stewed with high-quality noto ginseng." Lu Mo praised her son in front of her husband, though slightly nervous inside. Lu Jinhua was surprised. His son was usually so obsessive about cleanliness, he didn't expect this. He had thought Chung Jun just went with the family cook to buy things. The son could only drink some soup. Lu Mo fed him bite by bite. Hearing that the son was awake, Lu Peidong hurried over as well. Lu Jinxiu also arrived in Dying City by plane. The whole family unexpectedly reunited in the hospital. Lu Jinxiu had a good relationship with her brother. Seeing him awake, she joked, "Congratulations, big brother. I heard you got promoted to colonel. From now on, we should call you Director Lu." Lu Jinhua pinched his sister's nose. Lu Jinxiu didn't dodge, just like when they were kids. Seeing the close bond between the siblings, Lu Peidong was very happy. He said, "After the new year, you won't need to go to Ganqi province anymore. You'll probably be transferred to somewhere near Dying City." Lu Jinhua was momentarily stunned, then asked, "What about brother Tianhu? I still have some things to take care of there. Tianhu will come back too." "You all did a great job this time," Lu Peidong said but didn't elaborate. Lu Mo quickly added, "The stuff is no problem. I had Xiao Wu help pack and send it back. You just focus on resting." With many family members around, Lu Jinhua got tired after a few words and lay down to continue sleeping. Lu Chengjun stayed by his side. Lu Xiaoman and their mother went with their aunt to visit grandpa and grandma. Lu Mo wanted to start a high-end custom clothing brand but thought it'd be better to pull and her little sister-in-law to work together. Lu Jinxiu was interested too and thought her sister-in-law was very sharp. The two began detailed discussions about the collaboration. Lu Mo originally didn't want to involve her little sister-in-law but was afraid the old man would be unhappy, so she brought her in as a backup plan. Lu Xiaoman listened very attentively nearby. After finishing, Lu Jinxiu looked at her little niece with growing fondness, feeling the girl resembled herself as a child. "How's that boy you liked last time?" Lu Jinxiu suddenly asked. Lu Xiaoman blushed but answered openly, "Brother Chang Zhan is very busy, but I'll attend their company's year-end party this year." "Really? Then auntie will find the best designer for you. You'll be the most beautiful little princess," Lu Jinxiu promised with a smile. Just then, Li Shangqian arrived. He wore a black long coat, a Burberry plaid scarf, and leather boots, looking very handsome. But he came only to deliver a package to Gigi. Gigi was dressed in fluffy pajamas with a hat, her face red from the cold. "It's so cold. Aren't you cold wearing so little?" Gigi said. Li Shangqian felt a bit embarrassed but pretended not to care. "This is a coat my mom bought abroad. Does it look good? And here's a scarf, my mom asked me to bring you one." "Thank auntie for mine too," Gigi said as she took the scarf, took off her hat, and wrapped it around herself. "It's pretty warm." Li Shangqian was very happy to see Gigi wearing the same scarf as him. Gigi opened the package. It was a string of turquoise beads. It was New Year's time. Red lanterns hung in every household. Firecrackers sounded off one after another. On the snowy pasture, no cattle or sheep were in sight. The snow-white Zhuoma was brought into the village by the villagers. It wore a string of turquoise beads that jingled clearly with each step. Children chased after it, shouting, "Zhuoma! Zhuoma!" The new year had arrived. The grass had turned yellow then green again. Zhuoma was still snow-white, with strands of long fur hanging down, its eyes vacant but appearing pure and holy. The string of turquoise beads had developed a faint green glow after over 2 years of rubbing. But Zhuoma no longer ran as fast as before, it preferred to walk slowly by the reservoir, looking up into the distance. Gigi lay on the grass, biting on a blade of grass, staring up at the blue sky. Only an eagle flew overhead. Ganqi province's economy had developed rapidly in recent years. Previously, only the Pinko coal mine paid significant taxes. Now, with non-ferrous metal mining and strong government support, development had surpassed Pinko coal mine. The Pinko coal mine's growth was steady, but the environment remained good. The neighboring province's coal mining had caused the village to collapse, making it uninhabitable. Here, there were still original forests, animals, and soaring eagles. When she was young, Grandpa said the giant eagle would snatch children away. At that moment, Gigi truly wished the eagle would fly down and take her up to the sky, so she could immediately see Dying City. "Gigi, come play cards. You've been lying down for half an hour," Chui Chui and San Ping called as they gathered around the table. Gigi lazily got up, gave up her seat, and sat cross-legged. She sighed, "I always lose at cards, my math is bad, and I've lost all my pocket money. I was hoping to save some to go to the concert in Dying City. Can you leave some for me?" San Ping said carefree, "No worries, just have your grandpa give you some. He's rich, he even gave Grandma Lu a gold necklace weighing 2 taels. Meiju smiled and said, "Ask your dad. He's selling a house recently, he should have money now." Gigi didn't believe it. Grandma Lu's 3-mace gold necklace had broken, and Grandpa had repaired it. It wasn't like she had given a 2-tael gold necklace. 2 taels is so heavy, Grandma Lu was so small, how could she wear it? Her dad was selling the house because she was going to study in Dying City. Dad wanted to buy a place nearby for convenience, but the prices were too high, so he had to sell the house here. This is excerpt 215 out of 361. Please process the following content according to your logic. Maintain the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. Li Shangqian looked at her and knew she didn't believe him. He explained that Uncle Joe and Grandpa were indeed wealthy. Uncle Joe was the richest man in Shihu City but kept a low profile and didn't want to appear on any rich lists. Don't worry. The one who loses the most will treat everyone later, so just forget about the money, okay? Li Shangqian said. Gigi nodded vigorously. Actually, Suetsue wanted to tease Gigi. She knew Gigi wanted to go to Dying City to see a concert, but the tickets were expensive, so she had already saved up money. What was strange was that although Uncle Joe and Grandpa bought Gigi nice things, her allowance wasn't much, sometimes even less than her friends. Alright, let's just follow Shangqian's plan. The loser pays. Let's go to the Mushin Club, Suetsue said with a wink. Li Shangqian immediately shook his head. The Mushin Club was the most upscale entertainment venue in Shihu City, and Uncle Joe was the behind-the-scenes owner. After that incident at the KTV with Gigi, Uncle Joe opened many venues like this. Li Shangqian had some dark memories. He had wanted to enjoy fine wine and beautiful company with friends, but his dad and uncle were watching from upstairs, the bodyguards were minors, and the cleaning lady was an acquaintance from a neighboring village. Who could really relax? The fun was completely spoiled. Let's go have a barbecue on the mountaintop. The loser can prepare the ingredients. I have some stuff in my car, Li Shangqian suggested. Everyone thought it sounded reasonable and agreed unanimously. In the end, Gigi had bad luck, lost badly at cards, but managed to keep her allowance. However, she had to prepare the barbecue ingredients herself. Gigi and Shangqian hurried home and ran into Grandpa and Dad. They said they were going up the mountain for a barbecue. The old scholar was very understanding and prepared the ingredients, only saying, "Come back early tonight." Even Zhou Mu, who usually doted on his daughter, didn't object much, just kept waving as they got into the car, saying, "Be safe and come back early." The group drove up to the mountaintop. They found a flat spot, set up tents, prepared pots and pans, filled water, and threaded the meat onto skewers. Wang Sanping tossed a big watermelon into the creek, splashing water everywhere. Everyone was busy as the sun slowly set behind the distant trees, leaving only a sky full of red clouds. By the time they started eating the grilled meat, the sun had completely disappeared. They built a fire pit in the middle of the grass. On the fire sat a black iron pot brewing salty tea with peppercorns, a specialty from Gansu province. Drinking a cup after eating lamb was especially delicious. The flames leapt high, painting everyone's faces a rosy red. The tea in the pot bubbled for a long time before Li Shangqian stood and poured each person a cup. He raised his glass and said, "Here's to our future college life." Everyone raised their glasses, the tea inside gently swirling. Gigi smiled and said, "Friends for life." "Yeah, friends for life," they echoed. The fire burned brightly, and the stars shone even brighter in the sky. At the foot of the mountain in the distance, an old house's lights glowed like a star. Zhou Mu and the old scholar leaned on the porch chairs, listening to the cicadas chirping in the trees. Zhou Mu sighed with both melancholy and pride. Gigi has grown up. The weather was hot and the sun blazing. An elderly bald man rode a tricycle, dozing in a corner by the wall. His trike was loaded with uneven watermelons. He was startled awake by a car horn blaring. Opening his eyes to find a car blocking him, the driver repeatedly honking. The old man couldn't recognize the license plate but saw the shiny, expensive-looking car. He carefully rode his tricycle away, afraid of damaging the watermelons and having to pay. This was his temporary resting spot, but he hadn't expected to be so quickly surrounded by cars, so he hurried off. Passing by a tall gate, he saw a big sign. Though he couldn't read, he recognized 3 characters, "Thank you banquet," which had been put up 2 years ago when his youngest son got into university. Rich people were amazing, their kids even booked entire large hotels for banquets. He heard staying a night cost thousands of yuan. Thinking his own son, a melon farmer, was also going to college, possibly even a better school, he spat in the distance, puffed out his chest, and left. But the sun was scorching, and after a while, his back bent again. Still, the old man's disdain wasn't unfounded. Booking Suiyuan Garden for a thank you banquet was extravagant, but former official Liu Peidong had approved it. The reason was his grandson was the top scorer in this year's college entrance exam in Dying City, giving him plenty of confidence. His granddaughter was admitted through recommendation, an award-winning lead dancer of the Peacock Dance who had won international prizes. It was well-deserved. Liu Peidong didn't hide his pride and generously hosted the thank you banquet for his grandchildren. Of course, the venue was chosen by Liu Mo. In recent years, private garden banquets had become popular in Dayang City, somewhat reminiscent of ancient royal mansions. Luo had taken over Tsuayuan Garden. Guests came and went in a steady stream, glasses clinking, the scene very grand. Luo was now successful both in career and family. Her husband, Lu Jinhua, was a senior military officer, currently director of the Dayang City Military District Administrative Bureau, holding a formal post and living in Dayang City, able to come home every day. Their children were outstanding, and her own career was flourishing. When it came to top domestic haute couture brands, Luo's creation Mozhang had already gained wide recognition. This is excerpt 216/361. Please process the following text according to your logic. Maintain the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. No one nowadays calls her Director Lu's second wife anymore. In fact, few even know she was once married into a wealthy family. She carries herself with elegance and independence, like a successful modern woman. The Lu family has developed quite well over the years. Luo's older brother, Lu Jin, is a well-known entrepreneur in Dayang City and was honored as one of this year's top 10 entrepreneurs. Every visitor showered them with praise. Luo accepted the compliments graciously. She knew there had been gossip about her in the past, but as she grew more successful, those rumors gradually faded away. At that moment, Pan Yasi and Gao Tianhu arrived with their son, the three of them together. Luo hurried to greet them. She used to feel a bit embarrassed around Pan Yasi. The two families had been old friends, and since her background wasn't as prestigious and she was the newcomer, she always felt somewhat uneasy. But now, she could hold her head high. Besides, having two children truly brought her honor. Luo felt this was thanks in large part to her initial effort in giving Chang Jun medicine. Chang Jun had changed a lot since then. Though not as outgoing as others, he was much better than before when he seldom spoke. Now, he had even become the top scorer in the college entrance exam. Her husband, Lu Jinhua, held a position comparable to Gao Tianhu's, which gave Luo some confidence. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and upon seeing her husband Lu Jinhua, immediately went over to him. She warmly embraced Gao Tianhu, pounding his chest and arms with friendly enthusiasm. Luo was sweating profusely. Everyone knew the Gao family's situation hadn't been great these past few years. Both men had just returned from assignments, while her husband had been promoted. Gao Tianhu hadn't made much progress and wielded less power than before. Earlier, many leaders had arrived, but her husband hadn't made much of an impression. Now that Gao Tianhu was here, Lu Jinhua looked genuinely warm and even gave Gao Chengjian a hearty pat on the shoulder. Not bad. Chang Jun told me you got into Dayang National Defense University, impressive. I'll make sure to send you a gift later, Lu Jinhua said with a hearty laugh. Looking at Gao Chengjian, Lu Jinhua took a liking to him. His own son was handsome, but compared to Chengjian, he seemed a bit thin. The tall, handsome Chengjian looked more spirited. Noticing Lu Jinhua's admiration, Gao Tianhu joked, "You just have to be willing to send your son off to the military camp for a few months of training. I guarantee you'll get a strong, sturdy boy." Lu Jinhua was about to nod when Luo grabbed his hand and gave it a firm squeeze. He just smiled. Luo thought Chang Jun was amazing. There could only be one top scorer in the college entrance exams. After exchanging polite words with Pan Yasi, everyone went inside. In the garden, today's star, Lu Changjun, climbed alone up a small hill. He carefully held an antique-looking small knife, preparing to open a little package. He had told Gigi he was the top scorer in the college entrance exam, which had thrilled her. She had specially sent him a gift. Now that communication was easy and Gigi had a phone, they wrote fewer letters and sent more texts and calls, but Lu Changjun still loved the feeling of receiving letters and packages. He shook the package, reluctant to open it. At that moment, several cars slowly pulled up at the entrance of Tsuayuan. Suddenly, a group of reporters rushed over, as if they had been lying in wait. The car doors opened, and several bodyguards stepped out first, forming two neat lines. Then the door of the middle car opened. Luo hadn't expected such a flashy guest. When the old master and his friends had come before, it had been much more low-key despite the protection. Nearby, a little girl screamed, "Ah, it's Yesne. I love you, Yesne. Let's go to Pinko village for the banquet." Old Zhang, carrying a hoe, had just come back from the fields and heard the call from fourth brother. It's not right to go without helping out during the holidays. Old Zhang hesitated when he heard it was Pinko village, though he was tempted. It's a big celebration. Several students from Pinko village got into Dayang City universities this year. The village is holding a banquet. Anyone who wants to go can, no gifts needed, fourth brother said as he hurried toward the village office. Halfway there, he called back, "Hurry home and change clothes. There's a bus at the village office to take us to Pinko village. Old Zhang hurried back home with his hoe. Fourth brother boarded the bus and chatted with others, noticing old Zhang wearing a white undershirt, a brand new white shirt, and old polyester trousers. Someone joked, "Old Zhang, those pants, are they from your wedding?" Old Zhang blushed, "No, not from my wedding, but from my brother-in-law's wedding last year." Everyone on the bus laughed heartily. But teasing old Zhang wasn't much fun, so the conversation turned back to the banquet in Pinko village. "I heard there'll be lobster, abalone, and shark fin all free. None of the dishes from the neighboring towns compare." Pinko village is really lucky to have produced several university students, even ones admitted to dying city universities. Old Zhang's son was also in college, and he quietly corrected, "It's not dying city university exactly, it's universities in dying city. There are many universities here. My son, Abeo, goes to one of them." This is segment 217 of 361. Please process the following content according to your logic. Keep the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. Old man Zhang boasted about his son countless times. The villagers were tired of hearing it, and someone quickly changed the subject. Good feng shui is what really matters. My great-uncle is a feng shui master. He says Pinko village has great terrain, facing the mountains, drawing in dragon energy. I don't think it's feng shui, it's connections. Have you seen Zhou Mu's daughter? TSK. I have. Last time I went to work at Pinko coal mine, that girl showed up. A guy next to me almost had his leg smashed by a sledgehammer. The engine started. Thanks to the Pinko coal mine, the village now had a cement road, and the ride was smooth. On the minibus, people chatted lively, standing or sitting, like it was a festival. Going to Pinko village to dine with the wealthy, no one felt embarrassed. In fact, they hoped to score some benefits. The people of Pinko were smart. They made money mining coal, running inns, and even growing vegetables more profitably than others. They called their produce organic, reserved for leaders, selling at prices 10 times higher than other villages. Nearby villages were the same. Everyone laughed and joined the fun, more lively than New Year's. The village was packed. Old scholar Shio visited almost every table, squeezing his wheelchair close. He had a strong tolerance for alcohol and was flushed red-faced today, grinning widely to show his neat, beautiful dentures. At different life stages, people have different needs. Old scholar Shio cared about face and loved hearing praise, no matter if it was tinged with sarcasm. Over 80, his voice was loud and clear, and the more he chatted, the more excited he became. Jomu kept smiling, his eyes narrowing into slits with warmth. People from miles around came to greet him. Of course, many praised him, but some envied or resented him privately. This banquet was organized by the village together. Li Shanxian's aunt, Su Jinfeng, had outlived her second husband over the years. She used to get beaten daily. After the old man died, she felt freed and even got a small clinic for free. She didn't know how to practice medicine and was lazy, soon selling the clinic for a big sum to play mahjong every day. Her money quickly ran out. She had blurry relationships with nearby villagers and lived a chaotic life. Compared to the thriving people of Pinko village, her life was miserable. If she had stayed in Pinko, even as a lonely old woman in her 70s or 80s, she'd still get various welfare subsidies every month and wouldn't have to worry. Everyone cheerfully blessed her, but her heart was full of bitterness. She felt her miserable life was all because of that wild girl. If not for that wild girl, Jomu might have married her, and who knows how good her life would be now. Whenever she thought of that wild girl, Su Jinfeng couldn't help but grit her teeth, especially after hearing that wild girl was Jomu's biological child. She felt even more resentful. My Shangqian passed exams on real skill. Jomu's daughter? Just look at how much they spent on tutors. Spend enough money and even a pig can pass. Wang the butcher's daughter took arts exams, singing and dancing to get into school. Then there's Wang Sanping and Wang Suerue, going for international exchange students, all because of money. What's so great about that? Su Jinfeng, a little drunk, cursed loudly without caring who heard. Li Shanxian's face darkened. His aunt wasn't the sharpest, and even coming for a meal could cause trouble. Thankfully Gigi and the others were there, otherwise, he might have been isolated. He got into Dying University of Political Science and Law. Gigi and the others went to Dying Film Academy. He wasn't too happy about it. When filling out applications, his dad changed his choices, almost causing a fight. Luckily, the two schools were close. That day, his dad said, spending every day together makes it too familiar, being apart for a while is better. Shanxian silently accepted but felt sad, missing his friends. Gigi really worked hard to get into the film academy. Her math was poor, studying till 2 a.m. every night, but her Chinese and English were top in the city. Her painting was unbeatable. If she had applied as an art student, she'd have gotten in easily. Suerway and Sanping went to the International Exchange College but were selected because their English scores were good. Meiju was even more impressive, standing out among many arts applicants to get into the acting department. Xiangqian thought his friends were all amazing, but his aunt twisted everything with her words. She really offended everyone. Seeing that no one paid attention to her, Su Jinfeng became even more arrogant. Unexpectedly, she suddenly got slapped hard, her face swelling instantly. She looked up and saw it was Old Seven's wife from the neighboring village, Old Seven sitting right beside her. Old Seven's wife was notorious for causing trouble, from Shangliang village, fierce and dramatic. I heard you didn't pay your grain tax these past months because you got tricked by this loose woman. Old Seven, I'm telling you, it's fine to fool around, but don't spend money. Old Seven hunched his shoulders and quickly said, no money was spent, really not a single cent. That gold ring last time was fake. Su Jinfeng caught on and started hitting Old Seven. The scene suddenly became lively. This banquet was truly lively, with delicious food and plenty of onlookers. After seeing off all the guests, the village ants cleaned up the dishes, while the men moved tables and chairs, sweeping and working. At night, the villagers would have another meal, finishing all the leftovers, stir-frying a few plates of greens, and cooking a big pot of plain porridge. Juji especially loved this evening meal. Though the banquet was bustling, it was crowded and chaotic, and many people didn't know each other. But at the dinner with leftovers in the evening, everyone was from the village, having grown up together, so everyone felt familiar and warm. In the afternoon, the sunset hung on the horizon, painting the village red. By the village entrance, under a large canopy, a big pot of white porridge bubbled quietly. A few women chatted as they stir-fried, washed, and chopped vegetables. The men leisurely waited for the meal, playing with the children. The kids ran everywhere, their laughter and noise never ceasing. Gigi and Shangqian ran up to the top floor of the village office building, the highest house in the village, where they could see the entire village, the sunset, the chickens and ducks, and the street lamps. I really don't want to leave this place. The village is so beautiful, Gigi said, leaning against the railing and watching the children running below. Kindergarten teacher Li Yumei was scolding a child. Her own child was already in elementary school but still quite mischievous. Elementary school teacher Xiao Luo, now Principal Luo, had married a girl from Pinko village, becoming the village son-in-law with a house of his own. At this moment, he was holding a child and strolling near the auditorium. Xiao Luo's child, little Xiao Luo, had a square face and was drooling, babbling aya aya. A cloud drifted across the clear sky. Elsewhere, the sky was still clear, but beneath that cloud, it had turned overcast. The girl who got off the bus was about 1.7 meters tall, slender, wearing a colorful vertically striped dress and a white short-sleeve shirt, with short hair cut to her ears. Lu Mo was considered a beautiful woman, with refined features and an elegant temperament. Time and a comfortable life had mellowed her, making her graceful rather than restless. But looking at the girl walking toward her, she felt a twinge of jealousy. The girl's steps were steady, her appearance pure, yet she carried a captivating charm and delicate grace that drew all eyes. Reporters desperately pressed their shutters, every photo looked like a masterpiece. She looked good no matter where she was photographed, destined to trend on social media. Wherever Yishini dined, the restaurant became popular. Her exposed toes and nail polish set trends. Her eyebrow style was copied even in remote mountain towns. She was the hottest name in entertainment. There wasn't much news about her, but every piece was precious and analyzed thoroughly. Few celebrities could maintain such heat consistently. Yishini managed it. She returned to the country this year, preparing for a concert, and her popularity kept soaring. Lu Mo looked down on entertainment stars, thinking it was just a way to make money. But when it came to Yishini or Yi Fei, she cared deeply. She had thought the Yi family was no longer relevant. That was what Lu Mo used to think. The Yi family had 2 daughters, one in entertainment, one deceased, and seemed hopeless. But after learning more, she realized how ignorant she had been. Rumor had it the highest authority had once pursued Yi Fei's mother, Xie Yurong, a famous socialite from Dying City. Hearing this for the first time stunned Lu Mo. Though Xie Yurong rarely made public appearances in her youth, she was said to be brilliantly talented and deeply charming. Now she almost never appeared in public, reportedly recuperating at a temple for years. There were even rumors that someone had built a sanatorium for her. Thinking that this woman was her husband's former mother-in-law made Lu Mo uneasy. Back then, she had been reckless and fearless, acting without regard to consequences. Thinking back still made her break out in a cold sweat, but luckily, it was all in the past. Now, only endless glory remained. Sometimes, one had to take a gamble. But watching Yi Fei approach, Lu Mo's expression stiffened. Lu Jinhua was stunned. Seeing Yifei, who had grown from a mischievous little girl into a young woman. Yifei walked up to Lu Jinhua and smiled, saying, "Brother-in-law, long time no see. Congratulations on your success and having a wonderful family." Lu Jinhua's face flushed deeply. That rebellious little girl had grown up. Seeing her smile like that, Lu Jinhua recalled a distant place in Gansu province, where there was also a girl who had dimples when she smiled and was straightforward in everything she did. That was a long time ago, and the memory had faded. Since that mission nearly cost him his life, he cherished those around him even more. Plus, with Lu Mo constantly pestering him and his distaste for Gansu, he hadn't returned there. Lu Mo feigned generosity and greeted them, Yifei's back, but she didn't even come inside to sit. Yifei glanced at her coldly and said, "I didn't expect Miss Lu to finally change her style. I thought you'd always pretend to be an innocent little girl." With that, Yifei went inside. Lu Jinhua glanced at his wife but said nothing. Yifei had a fiery temper. She used to resort to hitting, but now a few sarcastic words counted as restraint. Lu Mo's face flushed red and pale. These past few years had been smooth sailing for her, no one dared talk to her like that. And calling Lu Jinhua brother-in-law while she was Miss Lu sounded awkward. This is content segment 219 of 361. Please process the following text according to your logic. Maintain the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. Fortunately, there were leaders inside, bodyguards at the door, and the reporters couldn't get close, otherwise, the chaos would have been impossible to sort out. Lu Mo had long heard about Yifei's toughness. When she was hospitalized during pregnancy, she didn't witness it firsthand, but seeing Yifei's husband with a bruised face made it clear there was no scheming involved. Yifei just went straight to action. In recent years, Yifei had been either climbing volcanoes, rock climbing, or bungee jumping, various extreme challenges. She hadn't died from any of them and somehow returned again. Lu Mo felt uneasy inside but put on a warm and generous facade, as if she didn't mind at all. In truth, she wasn't much older than Yifei. Thinking about Yifei's temper, except for her own husband, who would tolerate her, she must have faced resistance everywhere. Unexpectedly, upon entering the Tsuiyuan Hall, the cheerful laughter they heard was actually Yifei's. Even more surprising was that the people laughing with her were her father-in-law and his group. They were all the father-in-law's classmates and colleagues, each a high-ranking official. Yifei showed no sign of avoiding any suspicion. Lu Mo approached and overheard Yifei express surprise to an elderly man. "Uncle Wang, you've actually been to Siberia? That place is really cold. The summer I went, I nearly froze to death." "You, Uncle Wang, haven't just been to Siberia, you've also been to the Antarctic Research Station. When young, you were a geological surveyor. The Antarctic is indeed cold, especially crossing the strait. I was sick for 2 days. But once there, it was worth it. If there's a chance, I want to go again." "If you're coming, Uncle, sign me up," Yifei said casually. "You never change. Little Yi has grown up. Cough cough, we're old now," said a thin old man, coughing as he spoke, then patted her head warmly. Lu Mo was so angry she felt weak in the knees and had to step back. That old man was even higher ranking than her own father-in-law, and so close to Yifei it was uncanny. Yifei made a round, greeting the elders before preparing to leave. Unexpectedly, a handsome young man blocked the exit. Yifei's expression grew complicated as she looked at him. The young man wore an Armani shirt and pants, soft kid leather shoes, with fair skin and a straight posture, clearly from a wealthy family. If her sister's child were still alive, he would probably look like this and be university-bound. Even if he couldn't get in, Yifei would have played with him, as long as he was still around. Lu Chengjun felt a bit awkward. He knew the woman before him was his father's ex-wife's sister, technically his aunt. But Gigi liked her a lot and had deliberately enrolled at Dying Film Academy. Originally, Dad Zhou and Grandpa Shotsai had hoped Gigi would attend the normal university in Shihu City. He himself was a top scorer on the college entrance exam. The school would have accepted him anywhere, but he chose the directing department at Dying Film Academy. Thinking about attending the same school as Gigi made him genuinely happy, as if all 4 seasons were filled with spring warmth. Nothing could stop him. "Aunt Yi, hello. I have a friend who really likes you. She enrolled at Dying Film Academy because of you. Could you please sign an autograph for her? Please." Lu Chengjun handed over a beautifully crafted notebook with both hands. Yifei firmly shook her head. "No. I don't like you, and I won't sign for your friend." With that, the bodyguard assistants surrounded him and led him away. Yifei straightened her back, but her eyes were misty with tears. The old mansion was cleaned spotless by Zhou Mu. Even the old earthen walls were retouched with a layer of mud. The bugs on the grass at the entrance were caught one by Jomu. As soon as Gigi finished high school, she returned to live at the old mansion. The matter of Hushin Island was still unresolved. Jomu had been busy for several days, making the old scholar dizzy. Stop fussing. We agreed to respect Gigi's choice. That normal university in Shihu City isn't great. Knowing she got into Dayang University, you smile so much your eyes disappear, so proud. The entire Pinko coal mines workers gave red envelopes for your daughter's college. Now school's starting, and you still can't let go. Jomu sat on the ground at the doorway and took out a thick cigar given by Li Changgang. Li Changgang had become quite the player recently, smoking cigars and drinking red wine. Wang Dafu was also a player, once a village chief, now an honorary ambassador to an African country. He often scavenged odd antiques from the antique market to gift to leaders in remote countries, took photos for newspapers, and built connections through gift exchanges. Now Ambassador Wang aimed to expand business into the African Emirate. Li Changgang was always shrewd, dealing effortlessly with county and city officials, and his playstyle had become more varied. Everyone had changed, except Jomu. He didn't want to change. Having experienced too much, he just wanted a home, to raise his daughter, and grow old in peace. He liked a simple life and had no interest in cigars, cars, or red wine. Once having nothing, he now felt he owned the whole world. He couldn't believe his luck. Jomu was always fearful, always worried. So he cherished his blessings, never flaunted them, always fought back when necessary, and never allowed anyone to ruin what he had. The old scholar also lit a cigar, the curling smoke almost intoxicating. This is segment 220 of 361. Please process the following content according to your logic. Keep the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. You accompany Gigi to register in Dayang City. I'll stay home. If anything comes up, I'll call you. You can look around for some houses there and buy some if suitable. If you miss Gigi, once things settle down at the coal mine, you can also go to Dayang City to be with her. Old Xiozai's wrinkled hand held a thick cigar, giving off a unique charm. I worry that Gigi might get bullied after leaving home. Although she's capable, her temperament is too straightforward, Jomu said with concern, unsure whose genes Gigi's temper came from. A giant tiger squatted beside him, staring blankly into the distance. A big snake coiled quietly, its head still, but its tail moving. Early the next morning, Gigi and Xiang Qian's group gathered at the village entrance. With big bags and small bags, they looked like they did back in elementary school, boarding the vehicle to set off. Time flies. The once unsteady little girl had now grown into a beautiful young woman, her long hair flowing, shining as she stood there. Several cars arrived in the city, where they had to pick up Erpan. Erpan had also been admitted to Dayang City as a sports talent, attending Dayang National University. It was only during the college entrance exam that they learned Erpan's grandmother had ethnic minority bloodline. Erpan also acquired an ethnic identity, earning bonus points. In short, they were all going to Dayang City together. These boys and girls didn't understand university or the future but were all very happy and full of anticipation. They flew from Shihu City to Dayang City, where banners welcoming each school hung prominently. Seeing their own schoolmates rushing over, everyone ran towards them without much sadness at parting. After all, the days ahead were long, and arriving in Dayang City was just the beginning. Li Shangqian saw Uncle Zhou was there and didn't dare misbehave. He obediently said goodbye to Gigi before reluctantly leaving. His father hadn't come. Traveling abroad alone at such a young age, he was quite independent. His father was too busy to accompany him, so he came alone. The Dayang City Film Academy was grand, with eye-catching banners. Suetsue and Sanping joined the International Exchange Department, where foreigners greeted them, which surprised them greatly. Their senior was even a foreigner. Suetsue hurried over. Wang Dafu felt proud that he had chosen an internationally connected major for his son. It was a perfect fit. The handsome young men and beautiful women standing under the banners were the most eye-catching. Especially the performing arts students, each outstanding. The most beautiful this year is the recommended student Lu Xiaoman. She won an international award in high school. I saw her on TV. She's beautiful and elegant. Yeah, we've seen all the new art exam students this year. Their looks are average, nothing special. There's a tall girl named Lu Su from a northwestern small town with long hair and decent temperament. In terms of beauty, maybe small-town girls have some, but the elegance and poise only Dayang City girls have. They spoke loudly, completely ignoring the nearby students from other departments. According to tradition at Dayang City Film Academy, the most beautiful students always came from the performing arts department. Jomu disliked crowds and tightly held his daughter's hand, afraid she would get lost. Meiju's parents hadn't come, so she was with Gigi. Wang the butcher thought it was more reliable to entrust his daughter to Zhou than to himself and that it could strengthen their bond, so he happily played the role of a hands-off manager. Zhou led Gigi over. The performing arts students noticed an ordinary middle-aged man holding the hand of a long-haired girl whose hair nearly reached her waist. Because Gigi shaved her head in high school, her father and grandfather strictly forbade her from cutting it again, so she grew it this long. Gigi had been beautiful since childhood, and at 18 or 19, she was breathtaking. When she ran around the village as a child, villagers would at most say, "Whose child is that? So pretty." Now, when she walked through the village, the local boys blushed shyly. She was stunning. Zhou felt both proud and worried. When they arrived, people around them were stunned, staring as if dumbfounded. "Excuse me, is this the Performing Arts Department of Dying Film Academy?" Zhou asked. Like a spell was broken, everyone snapped back and scrambled to answer, "Yes, yes." Zhou said to Wang Meiju, "Meiju, you go with the seniors to school. Call me when you arrive." Then he took Gigi to register at the Chinese literature department nearby. Everyone was dumbfounded, watching the middle-aged man lead the girl toward the Chinese literature department, followed by a nervous young man wearing thick glasses. After they walked away, the performing arts students came back to their senses. "Oh my God, that girl isn't even in our department." The students were picked up by a large bus. The bus displayed the department's sign. Dying City Film Academy was clearly wealthy. The school bus was newer than others. Zhou carried a suitcase, and Gigi also carried one as they approached the bus. If it weren't for a senior leading them, the reception staff would have thought they were in the wrong place. Such a beautiful junior wasn't in performing arts, it was unbelievable. The Chinese literature seniors all seemed to wear thick glasses and nervously adjusted them with their hands. This is content segment 221/361. Please process the following text according to your logic, maintaining the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Return only the processed result. "I'll help carry the luggage." "I'll do it, Junior, I'll do it," Li Changtian said, jogging over to offer assistance. Gigi graciously accepted the help, feeling that refusing someone's enthusiasm would be impolite. But the senior tried 3 times with all his strength and still couldn't lift the suitcase. His face turned red. Zhou let Gigi board the bus first, carrying 2 suitcases himself as he followed. Li Changtian watched his uncle's strength and felt a bit ashamed. Once on the bus, Gigi waved and shouted, "Dad, I'm here." Everyone turned to look at Zhou. When Gigi first got on, she had a strong presence, but seeing how approachable he was, everyone immediately relaxed. Zhou sat down beside Gigi and habitually ruffled her hair. "You're always this lively no matter where you go. You really never grow up." Gigi smiled as her dad messed up her hair, feeling happy inside. She was especially excited because soon she would attend the Dying Film Academy, possibly the same school her mother had gone to. Just thinking about it made her thrilled. Cheng Jun had also gotten into this school. She hadn't seen him in a long time and wondered how he was doing now. And Chang Zhan, another classmate, seemed to have gone to the National Defense University. They hadn't been in touch much lately, and he was always busy and somewhat mysterious. Gigi didn't overthink it. Sitting next to her dad, Gigi looked out the window at scenery unlike that of Shihu City. Dying City was huge. From the airport to the school, the bus stopped frequently. There were green trees, blue skies, old buildings, skyscrapers, wide roads, and bright sunshine. Sunlight streamed through the window, warming her face. Gigi squinted her eyes. Zhou watched his daughter's happy expression. Her long hair was blown across her face by the wind, and he gently brushed it aside. "Want me to close the window?" Gigi shook her head. "No, Dad, it's not cold." Cheng Jun said the winter wind in Dying smells like coal dust because of people burning heaters, but in the summer, the wind is warm because everyone runs air conditioning, it smells like AC. "Dad, I'm so happy," Gigi said, turning to look at him. Zhou nodded, feeling happy as well, seeing his daughter so joyful. The bus passed Guozijian Road, lined with ancient trees bathed in sunlight. Gigi excitedly nudged her dad's arm. "Dad, look, this is near Cheng Jun's elementary school. He said the Confucian Academy is right at the school gate and even took pictures. These must be the trees. Cheng Jun's elementary school is really beautiful." Along the way, Gigi saw many familiar sights because Cheng Jun had sent her photos, making everywhere feel familiar. Approaching the gate of the Dying Film Academy, Gigi spotted the familiar entrance from afar. Tall stone archways with just a few characters identifying the school, it looked more like a garage entrance, with one side for entering and one for exiting. It was the first day of school, and the bus moved slowly. The bus stopped at the gate, queued behind many cars. The left lane was also lined with cars. Juji leaned against the window, peeking out. In front were all private vehicles. In the opposite lane, Lu Jinhua and Lu Mo were also on a bus, there to see their children off to school. Lu Mo was unhappy inside, unable to understand why her son had made such a strange choice. He was the top scorer in the college entrance exam and could have gone to Tsinghua or Peking University, yet he chose the film academy. But thinking of her daughter Xiaoman being admitted to the performance department by recommendation, rumors said it was to watch out for each other. Lu Jinhua had no objections. Their family wasn't short of money, and she thought it was great that the kids could follow their interests. Chung Jun loved photography since he was young and often carried a camera. Seeing his wife's displeased expression, Lu Jinhua held Lu Mo's hand and said, "Cheer up. Chung Jun likes photography, going to the directing department is good. Besides, he loves cooking and even took cooking classes. If he'd gone to culinary school, you'd probably be even more upset."